From the damp basements, from between the flash cuts invoking epileptic seizures, it is time for some Flick Lab. Welcome back. My name is Karri, or Karri, or Curry, and my co-cult member is Henrik. Hi.
Still here.
Awesome. How you been?
Way worse since I started watching this film.
Well, yeah, it's different. It's different. I'll give it that.
You definitely see that this is the Halloween where there's, well, not major, but bigger studio was involved.
Yeah, plenty of people in the soup once again, or something like that we would say in Finnish way. But as we know, there was a lot of people in the same mess, trying to kind of invoke their own vision of what this movie is supposed to be, and it just turned out to be a mess, even though they had much more time to figure this one out than the previous one. But anyway, it is what it is. Halloween 6, directed by Chappelle, or is it Chappelle? You are the encyclopedia here. Who is Chappelle? Chappelle.
Chappelle. Yeah, well, basically, he's pretty much a complete nobody.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. This is the weird time in Halloween franchise where they give the reins to practically a guy who has never done anything. Well, Halloween 6 was produced by the Weinstein brothers. And with Halloween 6, Chappelle would have made 3 movies in total for the Weinsteins. You know, we are with the steady hands of the guy who also directed Phantoms and The Skulls 2, the sequel to the movie The Skulls, who nobody saw and to which no one ever wanted to have a sequel. But
how dare you? My favorite movie.
I'm making the case. You've never actually seen The Skulls. You are just, mixing it. You are confusing it with the Phantom movie.
Oh, I'm just playing with you.
Okay.
The movie is written by yet another Halloween fan, like was the case for Halloween 4. This time it's Mr. Daniel Ferrand. And it totally shows throughout that it's written by a fan. Let me tell you why. Because maybe it's not the best idea to give the green light for somebody to write a movie who is already a fan of the movie series. Because these people are always, it seems, looking for the deeper meanings behind the characters. So much so that they are kind of ruining the characters. Because they are taking the mystique out of them. Even more so here, and completely so.
To actually come to Fran's rescue here.
Really?
And yep. Still, I'm still playing the devil's advocate here.
Devil's advocate section of this podcast. Go.
Yeah. So I'm not completely sure if it's really Ferrand who is in the end at the fault here. I mean, sure, the movie is kind of a mess and a complete clusterfuck, but then again, you come from Halloween 5, or that's, the film you have to continue on. And we all remember where Halloween 5 left the franchise.
It left it at a point where there was no other option than for the following sequel, Halloween 6, to kind of justify all the randomness that happened in Halloween 5. And that's all that Halloween 6 is basically about. Just trying to pick up the pieces and make something out of it. But we could get to my theory, what they could have done here instead of this clusterfuck.
They could have cancelled the whole movie and just be like, the franchise is over.
Yeah, a god could have been at his desk just trying to scribble some ideas together and say, fuck this film and let's reboot everything, or better yet, just stop here and admit that you don't have any ideas.
Then again, this franchise has its own reboot coming up. I guess we've both already seen how that went. So, I mean, Rob Zombie entry on this franchise.
Right. Definitely should have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize, Pulitzer Prize, Oscar Prize, everything in between. But yeah, Daniel Farrands is not completely the one that is driving this into absurd chaos.
Now, this is basically Halloween 6, the starting point where the script has to start is already a dumpster fire on its own merit. The question how much Farrands himself was is responsible for all the nonsense in Halloween 6 comes down to how much Farrands had free reign when it came to the whole Thorn Cult idea. Because even though Halloween 5 already ties into the Thorn Cult, once you see Halloween 6 through the whole Man in Black character, which is introduced in part 5, the cult itself is not yet made clear in Halloween 5.
Not at all. There is the thorn symbol, so it's giving you something. It's so in background that I wouldn't count. Like, it's once again with Halloween 6, when you look at Halloween 5, and then the whole thorn symbolism kind of comes to eye and makes sense to you. But if you would have Halloween 5 and then part 6, and 6 without any of the Thorn Cult nonsense, in that case, I would make the case that the Halloween 5's Thorn symbolism would just be somewhere in the background and you wouldn't notice it. And maybe it wasn't even meant to be there to begin with. If you look at Dan Farrands' script, the cult and thorn nonsense is all over it. That being said, there probably were some powers that be in the background as well, at least in the reshoots. That's as much as we know. That the end result, the Halloween 60 theatrical cut, is not quite the what Daniel Farrands wanted to be out. But we can get to that, and we will. But in the end, these two movies are really the same thing. It's just that the other one explains things a little more to the T.
Yeah, so to our listeners, there is infamously two different versions of Halloween 6. The first is the theatrical cut, and the second is so-called producer's cut.
And the third is a director's cut, apparently.
Yeah, well, there is actually, there is more versions of this goddamn film that there are pending court cases against Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, the third version, or let's say the director's cut. I've seen just some small clips out of this, just some different shots, but something that was confusing me is that somewhere on the interwebs there was texts that said that there's the Halloween theatrical cut, there's Halloween producer's cut, 95 minutes or so, and then there is the director's cut, 130 minutes or so. So that I'm curious about. Is there still some freaking version of this film that somebody still hasn't bootlegged, and we have to wait for the next 25 years for that masterpiece?
Yeah, is there a second director's cut?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, because like you, I have also seen the director's cut scenes.
Yeah.
And even with those scenes, it doesn't bring it up to 130 minutes. So maybe there would yet be another director's cut atop of the director's cut. And none of those cuts actually make a good movie.
No.
Like that is the most tragic case with Halloween 6. There is countless versions of the film, and none of them are good.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I don't know, probably I was around 13 when I was full of this Halloween mania, and I was on the early interwebs checking out some obscure pages for information about Halloween, and then finding all this information about this different version the producers got, and then looking at some shitty still images from a 10th generation VHS bootleg, and being like in awe, like, oh, what is this? Oh my god, there's a completely different story here. How can I ever see this movie? It must be a wonderful, epic masterpiece. Maybe not like that, but yeah, I was excited because there's so many alternative scenes. So I finally got it. I think years later online, I finally found it. The producer's cut. Yeah, the quality is horrible. But nowadays, fortunately, fortunately, the producer's cut is on Blu-ray, so you can see it in all its glory.
Yeah, you can see all the plot holes in HD.
Yep, that's right. But that's a good starting point to get you a overview of what the hell is going on with all the different versions. Then there are the different script versions. So apparently the first known version of Halloween 6, the script, is written by Phil Rosenberg. And this draft was sent to Mustafa Akkad. He read it. He was apparently throwing it around his room and wasn't too happy about it. And it reveals that the long missing Myers is homeless and living in an alleyway, and only to return for Haddonfield's celebration. His killing methods are really weird, and one of these apparently includes drowning a teenager with a beer bong and forcing a rat down someone's throat. But it gets even better. The most bizarre element is a VR Ouija program, allowing users to see into hell, which is used to reveal the Myers family were cursed by ancient gods during a Samhain festival. This is coming from screenrant.com. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, it's always good when Hollywood goes with the direction that the VR technology allows you to see into hell.
This was ahead of its time. It was 94-ish, and they are talking about VR. Daniel Farrance was then brought on board, and you were saying in one of our episodes that you must have been wondering what Samuel L. Espanol Loomis was saying when he got the script in his mail and read it. Well, I have the answer to you, more or less.
Okay.
Daniel Farrance, at least himself, said that Donald Pleasence was very fond of it.
You mean this fucking script?
This fucking script.
Okay. Because I really can't see that happening. Like, no fucking way. I mean, I knew that Donald Pleasence was really old at the time when this was made, but still, you know, not even the most senile state could you be fond of this script.
Yeah, it was very fond of it, or quite fond of it. Anyway, it's pretty much the same.
Jesus. Like, fine, you are coming off from Halloween 5, but still, just no. Not of this script.
Yeah, I mean, how does it happen? First, Pleasence says that apparently Halloween 5 is rubbish, and then he reads this script which even more expands on the said rubbish. So, I'm lost. Lost. Anyway, in other news, Daniel Harris's agent informed that in an agent news bulletin called Breakdowns, Halloween 6 was looking for an actor for the role of Jamie. Okay, first of all, why the hell are they looking for the actor? Because it's Daniel Harris. Anyway, they were looking for somebody who is more than 18 years old. That was, I guess, the primary reason. And then again, why not contact Daniel Harris and kind of work it out? Anyway, Daniel was reading it herself from this bulletin, and it said, quote, "Note, this role was originally played by Daniel Harris. See photo attached. Please submit actresses resembling Daniel Harris." End quote. So, pretty weird. And the agent called Paul Freeman and Mustafa Akkad. They said, "We need somebody over 15, so get her emancipated." So Daniel Harris had to go before a court. You have to prove to the judge that you're an adult. So she went through all kinds of trouble. She hired an attorney for a couple of $1,000s to do it and had to go to court 3 or 4 times. And Daniel then went to the meetings with the people associated with the film. And she got a weird feeling. In other words, they didn't seem to quite get it, the series. So first things she hears is that Jamie is impregnated by his uncle. And Daniel went back and forth with the crew about the differing opinions they had. She was offered around $800 to or $1,000 for a week of work. She already had paid about $3,000 to $4,000 to be able to actually do the movie. Paul Freeman and possibly Daniel Ferencz were on her side. They got Daniel to the phone and they appeared to beg for Daniel to stay in the project, saying it's out of their hands are tied. And a woman, probably like another phone call, a woman on the other call said to Daniel, "Your character is a scale character. You die in the first act. We're not giving you any more money." And Daniel was like, "Well, I guess I mean nothing to you then. Okay." And so Daniel Harris was definitely out. Replaced by J.C. Brandy's performance, of course. J.C. Brandy said she got a lot of shit for playing Daniel's character in H6. But Daniel Harris and J.C. Brandy are apparently good buddies, so Daniel Harris asked people to stop being so harsh for her friend. That seems to be the complete story of what happened. So even before they got into shooting, it's already proving itself to be a shit show run by shit shows.
Yeah, so there is incession, there is mistreatment of the actors, and there is the brain dead idea of not contacting the actress that had previously played the part in the previous films. Like there are some telltale signs that this is a Harvey Weinstein production.
Yeah, I mean, wasn't there even something about Harvey Weinstein kind of being creepy towards Daniel, or am I just pulling this out of my bottom?
Well, they sure as fuck were creepy towards the actress who played the woman lead in this movie, Marianne Hagan.
Yeah?
Who got a lot of feedback for her physical presence from the producers.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, she was too thin and her chin was not to their liking, making her to be too self-conscious about herself and her physical appearance during the shooting, leading her to try to actually hide her chin throughout the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I mean, she was really good. She did a really good job, I think, in this movie. It's sad that I think she hasn't done much else than Halloween 6 and a bunch of some no-name movies. I could be wrong, but she hasn't had a very big career. I think she did a fantastic job. And also the actor of Danny's throat, Devin Gardner, is... Devin is like a child in this movie. He's doing a freaking amazing job, especially in the end, screaming for mommy.
But with that all, taken care of, maybe we should finally open this episode's drink.
Yeah, let's do it.
Since I'm way too happy to finally have a break from all that goddamn Miller I have been forced to glop down during this franchise.
I'm already missing Miller. I enjoyed it. It's like Corona, a soft alcohol which happens to suit me.
Meaning that it does most definitely not taste like it does not have a taste.
Fine.
So just like Corona, which you have to take with that, slice of lime, because Corona itself doesn't taste anything.
No, it's great. Miller and Corona, they will beat Lapinkulta and Karhu any day.
I can give you Lapinkulta, but god damn it, you do not go against Karhu.
They are so sour. It's like murdering your stomach.
This is the reason why you are in Poland.
My god, Poland. Poland. It makes probably the best beers in the world. And no, it's not Heineken. It's not Heineken. It's these Polish beers. Some of them are really special because some of them have these added tastes. Like there can be strawberry beer and maybe pineapple beer, and there's all kinds of different flavors. And most of them are quite soft
and most of them are not meant to be made into beer.
Well, I don't know how much you know about the local beers, but I think you would love the beers here.
I could believe that I could mix your local beers and pina colada.
But today's drink is Wynn's whiskey.
Yeah, like in case some of our listeners are still not on to us and our boozing during this podcast, we have a theme where we try to find a drink that is presented in each film we go through. And unfortunately, ever since we got stuck with Halloween as a franchise, we have been drinking Budweiser and Miller here in this podcast. Not counting Halloween 4, where thank God there was a scene where they drank coffee.
Yeah.
And I finally had a small break from American beer. and now there is a scene where Loomis and Vin share a nice glass of unknown brand of whiskey. So I myself am packing a bottle of Canadian Special Oud. It's Canadian whiskey. It's extremely cheap, and so is this movie. So
match made in heaven.
Yeah, it completely fits this piece of shit film.
Yeah, cling clang to how does the line go again? To old friends and to new beginnings.
To old friends and hopefully new beginnings after we get this franchise done with.
Well, before we get to the actual movie, did you hear about Tarantino's Halloween 6?
I did hear rumors, which I kind of found mixing information. Like some sources say that Tarantino was really involved and really wanted to make the film. And then again, at the same time, some sources say that Tarantino was just kind of hanging with Scott Siegel, who he was hoping that would direct the film, and Tarantino himself was not really that interested about making Halloween 6, but still, wanted to show support to Scott Siegel.
Yeah, I understood from this article that they were definitely going to do a movie a little bit in the same vein, so that they would explain the Man in Black, but they would maybe try to bring this Halloween a little bit closer to the roots in style and atmosphere.
Which is kind of ironic, seeing how bringing this movie back to its original roots of the franchise would kind of completely demand that you remove the Man in Black.
Yeah, it's kind of a clusterfuck of an idea.
Yeah, like if there is like some elements seen in Halloween films that you could really point your finger at and say that does not belong here, it's the whole concept of the Man in Black.
It could have been interesting though, because Quentin Tarantino was already riding on his Pulp Fiction fame, which was released on 94, and this came out in 95, Halloween. So it could have gotten some extra merit, credit, quality to it from it, but it didn't happen. There were some... it just kind of fell apart little by little, I believe. There was this shit show script, and it kind of died down after that, and Quentin Tarantino just disappeared from the project.
Tarantino making Halloween 6 could have made an interesting entry on his filmography. I give you that much, but I really don't see a good movie with the Man in Black character. Like, you are now talking about pretty much, I guess, judging by the carnage seen at the end of Halloween 5, an immortal cop-killing gunslinger in your slasher franchise. Like, nope. Like I said, you can point your finger and say, that does not belong here.
Yeah. Halloween 6. It starts with the strobo lightnings, flash cuts, this nonsense that lasts for maybe 4 or 5 seconds of different flash cuts of different parts of the movie, and it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
But it does set a tone. Like, it does create atmosphere. I even kind of like the first seconds. And now we are talking about the theatrical cut here. After this, we will get to the producer's cut. Fret not, our dear listeners, but we are spinning this off with the theatrical version, which does, in fact, open with just random flash cuts from different parts of the film. And even though they make zero sense, I kind of like those few seconds.
So what we're up for is basically silly jump scares with this metallic sound effect in the background whenever something creepy happens. It sets tone for flash cut, MTV-esque, 95, mid-90s type of a horror movie, a little bit before the Scream.
Yeah, that it does. Although, once again, to play the devil's advocate here, not all the MTV elements in my mind are bad. Like, some of them maybe are even, the few highlights of this movie. I get to the case examples once we, get further down with the plot line and the synopsis of this film, and we get closer to those individual scenes.
I find some things that I like more in the theatrical cut, and I also find some things that I like more in the producer's cut. And already in my mind I was editing this in my head and seeing what kind of things could be gotten from here and there, and then mix it a little bit, and then, if this would end up on Karri's cutting room floor, it would be like a hybrid of these two.
If it would end up my cutting room floor, it would be the opening credits and the end credits.
Some kind of postmodern art.
It still would, even with my postmodern art project, I would make the case it would be a superior film.
Well, yeah. I mean, at least we wouldn't have all these problems that we have with Halloween 6.
And it would never get theatrical release.
Exactly. Alright, so we finish with the epilepsy seizure, and we go to the basement where all this thorn cult stuff is happening. So maybe we should give a brief synopsis of what the hell is going on in Halloween 6. Is it you or me who goes to do this? Synopsis in general.
Okay, well, I can at least, try to give it a shot. And then once I make a complete goddamn mess out of it, you can jump in and save the show.
Proszę.
Okay, so basically Halloween 6,
The Curse of Michael,
is kind of a realistic and heartwarming coming-of-age story of Tommy Doyle, who was first seen as a child in Halloween 1. And this picks off years after Halloween 5. Tommy Doyle is now a young adult who has to kind of find his way between love and surprisingly ending up as a single parent at the same time that he has to kind of do this self-searching quest that presents him to new and weird religious ideas. And then there is masked killer slashing up people somewhere along the lines. That's basically Halloween 6.
I'm too tempted to try my own version of this.
Go ahead.
In 1989, Jamie Lloyd was abducted by the Man in Black with Michael Myers to an underground cult facility where she was to be impregnated by her uncle to deliver a child that would be used as Michael's final sacrifice to release the curse of Michael Myers from him to the next one, which would be Danny's throat.
You are cheating there, my man. You are completely cheating. You are talking about the producer's cut, and we are going through the theatrical release, which does not have any of that backstory.
Other than the Danny stuff, otherwise it holds up. It's just not so clearly explained in the theatrical cut.
It's not explained at all. So basically, after the epilepsy scene, the theatrical cut actually ends up or starts in a dimly lit basement where Jamie Lloyd is at the same time being kept as a prisoner and giving a birth to a random child. And it's made clear that Jamie is being held prisoner in a dimly lit basement that immediately leads into a weird satanistic cavern, because this is one of those basements that also has satanistic caverns in them. You never actually find out how they got their hands on Jamie Lloyd. Like it just opens and Jamie is their prisoner and already giving birth to someone's baby, and that's all the explanation you get for the whole scenario in theatrical cut.
You're right. It's not explained at all. You are kind of left to guess it out.
It's also never actually explained in this birthing scene, which starts the film, that why the fuck are the scrubs helping Jamie at giving birth wearing the necessary protection to protect the baby from the germs, while the whole giving the birth thing is happening in a wet cavern in a dimly lit cave. Like you are taking steps to protect the baby from the germs while giving birth at the place filled with germs and God knows what diseases and rats. So
yeah.
But hey, weird cult nonsense.
Now that you mentioned it, that this theatrical cut makes even more sense, even less sense than I remembered, excuse me. I think I was thinking that the father of the baby could have been the Man in Black, because this is the next male character that we see and is taking the baby away from Jamie. And that's kind of the only connection that you have. I would never in my freaking mind think that it would be, well, spoilers, Michael.
Yeah, I actually never even made the Man in Black connection, but now that you mention it, yeah, the cinematography kind of would suggest that the Man in Black would be the father, simply by judging on how the baby is handled right after Jamie has given birth and how the camera follows and Jamie's kind of a reaction.
Exactly.
Like, of course, that's not the case. And as we later on see in the producer's cut, but you still could make kind of that assumption simply by what you see in the theatrical release.
I think they could have just made this much more easier if they would have just shown Uncle Michael simply humping her knees in front of some kind of Druidian nonsense temple background and candles. Then it would not leave you any shadow of a doubt. I mean, this movie is kind of doing the exposition a lot already. Producers cut even more so. So, hell, why not just go all the way with that?
Michael humping Jamie. We are getting back to this once we deal with the producer's cut.
Yeah, let's move on with the theatrical cut. So, apparently Halloween has been banned in some capacity since 1989 in Haddonfield, but inhabitants of Haddonfield want to normalize Halloween again. This is kind of where we go and how the Barry Sims radio host is related to all of it. Wow, what do you think about Barry Sims? What is Barry Sims' role here exactly? Is he just kind of there put as some kind of a plot device to enable the main or some of the leading characters to kind of speak out their mind to somebody? Would this movie be any different without Barry Sims? At least there would be less of nonsense there.
Well, in my mind, Barry Sims, as a character, Barry Sims does not work at all.
Yeah.
Like, the dude's completely insufferable. Granted, that was what they were clearly driving for in this movie. Like, Barry Sims was meant to be an unlikable asshole throughout the film, and that is what the character is, completely. But Barry Sims does kind of serve a purpose at the beginning of the film, where the radio show that he hosts kind of works as a plot device.
Yeah.
To introduce Danny.
Come to.
And to tie some characters together. Like, basically, Barry Sims' radio show is needed so that first Jamie can reach out, Danny can be introduced, and Loomis will get back on the case of Michael Myers. That is where you need Barry Sims' radio show. And I think that I actually quite liked those early scenes with the radio show and how they kind of moved from one perspective to another. Like, this person is now listening to the radio show, cut to the next scene with this person listening to the same radio show, cut to the next scene of Jamie calling into the radio show, cut to the scene with Loomis hearing Jamie's call into the radio show. I liked that, how the radio show carried over into these scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, but when it comes to Barry Sims as a character, I just couldn't stomach the dude.
And imagine people are actually calling this guy.
Yeah, and Harry Weinstein levels of attitude towards women.
Yeah.
Like, once again, there are telltale signs that this is a Harvey Weinstein production.
Barry Sims is played by Leo Gitter. Leo Gitter hasn't been doing a whole lot of things lately, but he's been playing characters in Penny Dreadful. So back to the damp cellars we go. Jamie Lloyd escapes with the help of the midwife, who is known as Mary, according to the script.
And who clearly has read the script, seeing how she completely changes her stance when it comes to Jamie and the baby and the whole Thorncoat. And kind of right in the middle of things. Like, 5 minutes ago, you were helping Jamie to give birth and handed the baby to the man in black, and now immediately you have stolen the baby and you are freeing up Jamie and giving the baby back to her. What exactly is happening? Does the Thorncoat actually have the script locked in the cave?
At the moment when the man in black was taking the baby, there was really no chance for Mary to help Jamie. But when the baby was delivered back to Mary, I guess, for some reason, or maybe Mary got it from this temple stuff thingy and during the ceremony and just gave it to Jamie. Well, anyway, Jamie gets the baby and goes with the baby outside of this Thorncoat basement.
Which is so goddamn funny that even the nurse has to fight not to laugh when handing the baby to Jamie.
Yeah.
I mean, you can clearly see the actress, trying to hold back not to laugh at that moment. Which clearly showed that at least one person in the cast of this film did read the script.
Yeah. Save your baby. Oh,
Save your baby. I can't come with you.
Yeah, why?
Because the plot.
Why?
Because the plot.
Because when I was 13, 14 in that ballpark, I always wondered, why can't you just join Jamie? You seem like a semi-likable character. Don't do stupid shit. But she does, and she gets her head into a random spike that happens to be nicely on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, these creepy-ass basements, they always have these random spikes hanging from the walls, just for this purpose.
Yeah.
I really would have liked to have a chat with the architect that
Indeed
made the plans for that basement. Like, what was the thought process? Like, I have just drawn this really nice creepy ass basement where lights doesn't work and something is missing. Oh, it's this random spike on the wall. Like, yep, there, nailed it.
It's like in the James Bond movies where it's like the villain's lair. They have completely mapped out and they have a spike for Michael so he can kill his opponents whenever needed.
Yeah.
There's no explanation for this spike even in the script. There just happens to be a spike on the wall and that's it. I have to wonder, like, they must have been scratching their heads at the set, like, okay, there's just a random spike? Okay, how do we design this? Okay, let's see. Let's just build a random spike, and that's it.
Yeah, the typical I just work here school of thought in filmmaking.
Yeah. Alright, so Jamie runs to this truck that is apparently in front of, is it like a 7-Eleven there? Because the guy is having some coffee from his mug or whatever it is. And
well, can't be, because as far as I've mapped out in my head where this opening scene is supposed to be happening, it should be the Smith's Grove mental asylum, right? Right. That's
yeah.
Jamie has been locked up in the basements of Smith's Grove.
Right.
Which just happens to have basements with weird satanistic caves in them.
Of
but
course.
Whatever. Yeah, of course. So if that's the place, then there would be no logical reason to have a 7-Eleven right next to a mental asylum.
Yeah, that's true. But it is a script says that the guy is holding a 7-Eleven coffee mug, so that's why I took it from there.
We are clearly dealing with a movie that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God for this bottle of whiskey I'm having here. I'm gonna need it. I have a sense of revelation that this is gonna become handy making this episode.
Yeah. So Jamie gets into the truck. The original driver, the owner of the truck, gets killed. His head gets twisted in a nasty way, and Jamie takes off with the truck. She gets to a bus station, tries to call 911, but of course the lines are out because of the severe storm. So for some reason she is still able to call the Barry Sims show and call out for Dr. Loomis for her help, which alerts Dr. Loomis, and Barry Sims declares that this person is clearly insane. Jamie hangs up the phone, goes to the bathroom, and she's in one of the bathroom stalls, and magically in 5 seconds without a noise she's able to get out of the bathroom back window and escape from Michael Myers.
Basically, the opening is the first time you hear the new version of the Halloween theme that was produced for this entry.
Yeah.
And I have to go and make a note how much I fucking hate, absolutely loathe the Halloween theme in this movie and the goddamn chiptunes that have somehow managed to creep into the background of the theme music.
You know, the thing about the soundtrack is that it's so all over the place because, it's in one way in producer's cut, it's maybe more aching a little bit to the more traditional side, but then in this MTV cut, or the theatrical cut as we know it, it's more guitar driven and whatever it is.
Yeah, and it does not work at all.
Yeah, and why are this guitar sounds horrible. I mean, they could have done it, at least if you're going to go with the guitar route, and give it a more rock, raw, rough sound, and not this softish 90s pop rock type of flavor.
Yeah, if you want to be the MTV entry of the franchise, just, be honest and honestly be that.
So, Jamie drives and escapes Michael Myers, but gets bumped into a bunch of pumpkins on the side of the road, has to kind of end the driving, then has the genius idea to go into one of these barns, and is having a little bit of a game of tag with Michael. There is this absolutely hilarious shot at Michael inside the barn. So first Jamie goes inside the barn on one side of it, and then we see Michael Myers on the other side of the barn, and he's just looking straight into another direction. It's like he just woke up in a barn and like, what am I doing here? Where's Jamie?
But that's the weird teleportation powers that pretty much every character seems to have in this movie and this franchise every now and then.
Yeah, so Michael is teleported to the one side of the barn, and then Jamie steps on the hay, and it makes this crackling noise all of a sudden, or maybe something is underneath it, and Michael teleports next to her and kills her immediately. Oh yes, and then there is the lightning teleportation.
Yep, but then again, the power of editing has been on Michael's side, at least from the part 4, where it completely saved Michael from being shot by Loomis at the gas station. This version has the more brutal using the farm equipment scene.
Grabs her by the throat, lifts her a little bit in the air, and then just crunches her against the farm equipment. Yeah, but isn't there like a butcher knife first involved, and then the farm equipment, or?
The producer's cut simply has dubbing.
And this is the exact reason why I wanted to watch them in separate days. But I seem to be failing this episode already.
But this is such of a clusterfuck actually to follow all these versions of the film that it's a mental struggle to manage to hold the structure of the film of each version in your head.
Yeah, Loomis is listening to the radio show, and to me it appears like Loomis breaks the fourth wall. He says, "Not dead, just very much retired," and seems to look straight into the camera, at least as far as I can see.
Well, just in case, that the audience have not yet understood that Loomis really is not dead.
Yeah.
That's one of those, plot points that you really have to make sure that your audience actually gets.
You're right. Different generation.
Yeah, I mean, what would have happened? They could have actually thought that it was the ghost of Loomis that they saw on the screen.
Yeah, and it was the ghost that did all of this.
Well, it is the ghost of the first film that is still holding the franchise alive. So, show some respect to the spirit powers.
And then we get to the most logical scene of the entire movie. You must agree with me. We get to the point where Dr. Wynn comes to Dr. Loomis's house to celebrate that he is going to quit as the chief administrator of the sanitarium, and to inform Loomis that he wants him to be the replacement of himself.
The dude who has been retired for years now already.
Exactly, the dude that has been retired. Maybe, again, this is explained again in the other cut. There's more detail in that. But let's try to stick with the theatrical cut first. He has retired somewhere between 1989 to 1995, and he is happy with his current condition. Why would you go to Loomis's house to ask this clearly older gentleman, clearly not in very good health, to be the chief administrator of a sanitarium?
Are you now asking why did Dr. Wynne go to ask Sam Loomis
Yes.
to be the administrator, or why did the producers go ask Donald Pleasence to once again appear on the film?
We could go with both.
yeah, I mean, it's basically the same goddamn question.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I mean, you did not really see that much of Dr. Wynne in Halloween 1. So you really didn't get that much of, the relationship that Wynne had with Loomis. But in Halloween 6, they pretty much, they make quite good work, kind of showing that Wynne and Loomis have this warm, friendly relationship between themselves. So, that could be one reason. Wynne wants to leave Smith's Crow to his friend, who has shown that he is a capable doctor on his own right. So if I would have to make excuses for Wynne's decisions when it comes to hiring staff and choosing his followers for his work, that would be the argument that I would make.
For people who are not aware, Dr. Wynne was first introduced in Halloween 1, in a way. He was just there on the screen for approximately 25 seconds. He is the guy that goes with Dr. Loomis to the parking lot around in the sanitarium and tells Loomis that for God's sakes, Michael Myers cannot drive a car, but he was doing very well last night. So clearly a fan-written story, like bringing back throwaway characters in like 5 installments later in the series.
Yeah.
Well, to Halloween 6's defense, they are at least trying somewhere. For example, Myers' house is next to an intersection like it was in the original. You could imagine that this place is exactly the same, but like 4 and 5, this has been filmed mostly in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Well, at least Michael Myers once again used to live in a goddamn house. Like that's a huge advancement from the last entry. I'm calling back to the Michael Myers mansion that we saw the last time.
Oh, yes, that.
Yeah, I mean, at this time, the Myers residence is pretty simple suburban house instead of that Gothic manor that we had the last time.
This reminds me of something that would be also a fun little edit thing to do. To kind of do like, let's say a 1.5 hour long story that includes the entire Halloween story. Let me expand on that a little bit. So this fan-made edit by yours truly, maybe somewhere in the future, would explain everything about Michael Myers. So we start with Halloween, we continue with Halloween 2. Michael Myers burns at the end of Halloween 2, so therefore he's taking a little bit of a piss break during Halloween 3. So Halloween 3, he probably is nowhere to be seen. I cannot really justify that Michael Myers would be in it. Anyway, in Halloween 4, we give a scientific explanation why Michael Myers is still out there. So we would make the case that at the end of Halloween 2, the firemen came to the scene just in time to save Michael Myers at the end. So they had fire extinguishers, he was saved, he was just in a little bit of a coma. Okay, and then we move on to Halloween 5 and Halloween 6. And then Halloween 6 story is tied with the story of H2O. So it turns out that Laurie Strode has had a stroke, probably, and she has completely forgotten about her child, Jamie Lloyd. And apparently there was no car crash, Laurie Strode has just lied all along about the whole event, so she was completely unharmed and just going by with the name of Karri Tate somewhere in California. Then we get to Resurrection, and then we bridge Resurrection with Rob Zombie's Halloween. So Michael Myers goes to a time machine, and then we start the cycle all over again. And there's the Halloween 2, in some kind of I suppose some kind of an alternate reality is opened, and therefore Laurie Strode is played by somebody else here. And then we take Halloween 2 and combine it with Halloween 2018, and it's still pending how we're going to exactly establish that.
You know, I would actually love to be part of this project of yours. because couple of scenes already comes to my mind that I would like to introduce also into this fan edit of yours. First one would be right after Halloween 2, you know, when the fire department guys come off and come into the scene and, you know, just put down the fire on Michael Myers. And then there would be the scene into some random hospital, you know, where the doctors would be looking at Michael Myers and being like, the dude's completely burned to the crisp and some asshole has shot his eyes out. So then they have to, you know, surgically replace Michael's eyes.
Yeah, thank you.
And there would be this really technical, you know, this ER shot or the whole scene where they are just juggling between different set of eyes and seeing what fits perfectly on Michael's skull. And one of the doctors would be like, no, you know, we don't have the right kind of eyes, so please take mine and give them to Michael Myers. And then they do that, and they insert the doctor's eyes into Michael's head, and he would be in recovery after the operation. And during that time, there would be some local carpenter, you know, hanging around at the exact same fucking hospital, and he would teach Michael Myers some interior decoration and house building. And then during Halloween, after Halloween 4, before Halloween 5, Michael would randomly wake up at the hobo's cave, wander back to Haddonfield, rebuild his fucking house so that there would be the Myers mansion, and go back to the cave.
Exactly.
And then there would be, after Halloween 5, there would be a scene with the mayor of Haddonfield being like, God damn, Michael came here and has built this gigantic mansion into this property without the proper rights, so we have to actually tear down the whole Myers mansion and rebuild the normal suburban house to the lot. And, you know, I can see this happening. It would be a complete life story of Michael Myers.
Yeah, exactly. God, it would be fun to also explain all the different masks. There was some suggestion in one other podcast that there must have been like a mask shop in the Halloween 4 cemetery. So when he's crawling out of this tomb, he's just going on the side. There's this mask shop. Masks available, he grabs another one and changes it and then goes out of the cave before the explosion. Things like that.
Yeah. You know, while Michael is recovering in the hobo's witch's cave, the hobo looks at Michael's mask and he's kind of like, no, this is shit, throws it away, walks to Haddonfield to buy him a new mask, and then just present to Michael like, listen, son, what I got you. Here's your new mask, like.
Yeah. Are we taking this too seriously? No.
No. I see a lot of potential here, and you could actually, you know, you could even justify the mask change between Halloween 2 and Halloween 4.
Oh, sure.
Where the first time the mask changes, like Michael is coming back, like the doctors present Michael with the burnout mask from Halloween 2, which has miraculously survived alongside with Michael from the fire.
Oh, yes.
And at the hospital, there is like this also, not only the carpenter, but also a lawyer who would come to Michael and said that, you know, William Shatner could actually, sue you for copyright infringement if you keep using that mask. So maybe you should make some small alterations. And then there would be a scene of Michael watching a lot of Star Trek The Next Generation and getting fond of the character of Data, and then just, sculpting his new mask from, the facial features of Data. And, it all makes fucking sense.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we should make this. Like,
Yeah.
Is it too late to actually contact Jason Blum and make a case that we have the idea for the next installment on the franchise?
Yeah. We could do much better. Like, we could kind of keep it in the spirit of Daniel Farrans and company. Kind of trying to tie all of the nonsense together. Yeah.
Yeah, and then in Halloween 6 there could extended scene where Vin meets Loomis and is to Loomis like, I know you are retired and you are already too old to be my successor for leading the Smith's Grove, but it's a shitty mental asylum and Michael Myers has escaped like 1 or 2 times already, so nobody else wants to take the job, Could you please do me a solid and end your retirement so I can retire?
So many possibilities.
Many endless possibilities.
Well, coming up just after my Halloween 3 ending remix.
Yeah, in theaters 2020.
Well, where were we? Myers' house. We're introduced to the father of the household, John Strode. John Strode is made throughout the movie as unlikable character as humanly possible. So they definitely tried their best with that. I enjoyed the breakfast scene. Probably the first scene that comes to my mind when I think about Halloween 6 is the breakfast scene. Because there's great acting there from Kara Strode, known as Marianne Hagan.
Yeah, and when it comes to Bradford English, who plays John Strode in this scene, and when it comes to the pitch lab, you can clearly see that was, the scene where Harvey really gave some hand-on instructions on how to pull it off.
You stay out of this. Now that I look at it, there's also coffee on the table, so I have chosen my drinks for today very well. There's also what appears to be orange juice, or it could be beer for John.
Yeah, there is also, stomach bomb, weird rat vomit and cockroaches smoothie.
Farrand is referencing Carpenter's The Fog from 1980, with the line referring to a stomach pounder. I didn't know that. It's apparently a protein milkshake. This is the famous Tim Strode's stomach pounder.
Yeah, famously known as the only pounding that anyone will get in that house.
I still don't know. It's left as a mystery what it is. It looks like it could have milk and cocoa.
It looks like something that I would vomit up after a hard night's drinking, so...
Danny is drawing the knife against John. This happens quite randomly, and for me it works slightly better when there is none of the background work happening for why Danny is doing this. He's just pulling the knife in one of his first moments when we see him.
Well, there is that weird night sequence when Danny sees the man in black in his room holding a knife and telling Danny to kill somebody. So well, that's basically all the explanation and all the build up you get to Danny holding a knife against John Strode.
Yeah. In this cut, it's not very clearly explained why Dr. Loomis returns to the sanitarium with Dr. Wynn. It kind of is. Well, Loomis hears the talking on the radio, and based purely on that, apparently he's following Wynn.
Yeah, well, Loomis does hear Jamie's phone call into the radio station.
Yeah.
So I guess that's, you know, I my take always was that Loomis simply responded on Jamie asking for help.
Meanwhile, Tommy has some great powers and he's able to hear from the recording background where the call was taking place. So he goes to the bus station to look for any clues regarding Jamie Lloyd. And of course, conveniently, nobody has seen the red marks on the floor. And of course, nobody has found the baby crying in the bathroom. It's quite convenient when you think, what was it, like 7 hours had passed since the moment, and when Tommy comes to the toilet again.
Well, then again, it is a bus depot. So, what can you actually expect?
Yeah.
Nobody uses those toilets, and, you are lucky if the cleanup crew visits it once a month. So
Then we got to the moment when Dr. Wynn and Loomis get to the scene of where Jamie Lloyd has been kind of brutally murdered by the farm equipment. And they see the mark of thorn burned to the hay for whatever reason. Can you imagine this scene? Is it the man in black or Michael drawing some random signs on the hay while they leave any place?
Well, I can somehow, no matter which one it was, it could have been Michael, it could have been the man in black, but still, I really would have actually, for your fan edit of the film, I really want you to add the scene where the person responsible first pours the gasoline on the hay, then lights it on fire and immediately puts it out so that the fire does not spread and burn down the entire barn. Like, that takes some, really careful putting it off.
Yeah.
So A for effort.
Yeah. I mean, if you pour gasoline on this specific area in the hay, it would immediately catch fire. So that's out of the question.
It's like under a second and the entire ball of hay would actually be engulfed in flames, and with that, the entire barn. So, yeah. I also don't get how the hell the symbol of thorn now mysteriously works as Michael's mark instead of half-eaten dogs like every other entry in this franchise.
Yeah, now somehow Dr. Loomis is very informed that this is his mark. He somehow knows it.
Maybe, maybe Sam Loomis, while he was having that famous skin transfer done to his face to hide the burn scars, somewhere in the hospital managed to find a book about Couch of Thorns and read that that's Michael's mark, if he would happen to work for Couch of Thorn or something like that.
I have now formed my explanation for the thorn mark in the hay. They must have had probably a fire truck sized truck, and then have a huge stamp in the back of the truck, and then drive with the truck into the hay and make the stamp very hot and push it against the hay and leave the barn.
But pushing really a hot stamp against, dry hay would still make the hay catch fire.
Yeah?
It would still burn.
Yeah, that's
like you need something to immediately put down the fire, like instantly, like that.
all right. So it must be that when they press against the hay, it makes the mark, and then immediately they sprinkle water on it.
Yeah. That would pretty much be the only explanation. Which means that it has to be Michael and the man in black working together at that exact moment. Like Michael is driving the truck, and the man in black is with a water hose, ready to hose the hay immediately.
Yeah, but it gets a little bit trickier here because there's still smoke coming out of the hay. And Dr. Wynn has gone to Dr. Loomis, and with Dr. Loomis to sanitarium, and from sanitarium to this scene, and it's still having smoke.
So Michael must have a radio controllable fire truck. so that he can radio control the fire truck while he's also holding the water hose. Like, fucking nailed it. but if you want a head scratching mystery from this movie, try this one for a size. So Loomis has had a skin transfer done to himself to get rid of the burn scars. Fair enough, but how the hell can actually Loomis now grow a full beard, seeing that the beard now grows in places that previously actually were burned and covered in burn scars? Like, skin transfer does not work like that. You can hide the scars, but
it's very advanced skin craft.
Yeah. Like maybe he got a skin transplant from another dude exactly his age. It's the same. It's the same goddamn doctor who donated Michael his eyes. He's also like, please take this scalp off my cheek and give it to Dr. Loomis so that he can grow a full beard.
I have cracked this completely. The fireman who I'm still talking about this thorn symbol because I'm so...
Oh my fucking god!
I'm looking at the frame and I just have to crack this thing. So the firemen, they have the fire truck, so they are able to make the mark. So they are part of the cult. That makes sense.
Why doesn't?
Well, it doesn't.
Why won't the cops interfere with this? I mean, they are basically cruising around a crime scene, and most likely, I actually need the image of this scene. Because I need to find the exact location of Jamie's body, because I would make the argument that if you would drive the fire truck during the daytime, you would actually end up cruising on top of Jamie's body. Except, my mistake. We are talking about the theatrical cut where she was impaled on the farm equipment and not stabbed.
And the farm equipment is not seen in this frame that I'm looking at.
Well, they had to, of course, remove the farm equipment so that they can cruise around with the fire truck.
So the police are involved as well, perhaps.
Yeah, and that means the government is on this. Like, how deep does this go, man?
Wow, we're finding so many plots here.
We need Dr. Loomis spin-off movie, which is just, Sam Loomis fighting against the United States government, trying to topple off, the God of Thorn that has infiltrated the upper echelons of power.
Did you catch the Beavis and Butthead reference?
No, I did not.
Apparently, there's a Butthead reference when they are looking at the drawing of Danny. Tim says that in this weird voice, I think it's cool.
Was that a Beavis and Butthead reference?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay, because I just took that as a, excuse to punch Tim in the face if I would ever meet the man. But, talking about the drawing, I really have to tip my hat for Kara Strode, who previous night had seen her son's drawing of the thorn symbol. And on that scene, you can clearly see that the weird, my entire family is being murdered by mysterious forces drawing on the other side of the paper is clearly visible.
Yeah.
Through the paper. So Kara Strode basically could not have missed the other drawing by mistake. So it clearly had to be intentional or something like that. Kara is so used to her son drawing these weird, mysterious murder portraits that she just does not respond to it in any level.
Yeah, she does a good performance, as I've said. And this is the first movie of Paul Rudd. What do you think about his performance?
Well, I think that Halloween 6 must have worked as an audition tape for Paul Rudd in nailing the Ant-Man role, simply by judging by the small effort shown in here.
The script that he's working with makes him probably a little bit kind of an annoying character. I'm not sure why this was needed. I remember that the original Tommy Doyle actor, Brian Andrews, from the first Halloween, they tried to get him to this movie. They wanted to get him to this movie, but there comes this absurd part. Because Brian Andrews didn't have an agent, they were unable to get in touch with him. What the hell does that mean?
I don't know how it goes in Hollywood. I have the impression that the whole finding actors and getting cast into a movie is entirely tied into the concept of having an agent. Like, if you don't have agent, nobody really does find you. I'm not certain if that's really the case or if that's just what I've heard. But well, at least that's the official excuse why Paul Rudd was needed for this movie.
Yeah, it sounds about as logical as the crew not being able to call Dick Warlock and get the Halloween 2 mask for Halloween 4 and instead making their own mask.
Yep. Or them not being able to call Daniel Harris.
Yep.
Who, in case, actually had an agent.
Only in Hollywood, I suppose.
Yep. But yeah, when it comes to Paul Rudd and his performance in Halloween 6, I like about the fact that the movie, at least on some level, tries to handle the subject of mental trauma through Tommy's obsession with Michael, and the movie makes a case that kind of explains how Tommy Doyle and, in that sense, Paul Rudd acts in the movie. But even with that in mind, I think Paul Rudd's performance here is completely lackluster. Like, he has this same emotionless stare and emotionless line delivery in everything he does throughout the film.
I agree. And I just don't understand the choices that they have made with this character. Well, firstly, he's made out to be this completely insane, creepy person, which is not really what the original character was about. But okay, I can see that he has kind of lost his mind, alright? But then, why emphasize this madness with the cringing and laughing at the end by the character when he's hitting Michael with the metal pipe? It's just weird.
I see two arguments there. The first one would be, considering Tommy being extremely creepy throughout the movie. I would guess that what they were trying to do was show Tommy's trauma and his obsession of constantly following Michael and keeping tabs on everything related to Michael. Like, his creepy behavior would be Tommy trying to keep surveillance on Myers' residence because he does not believe that Michael Myers is dead, and he tries to be ready for Michael's return to Haddonfield. But the movie mishandles that point completely, and it actually, Tommy Doyle appears as a creepy stalker in this film. His surveillance of the Myers residence looks like him just perving on his next door neighbor.
To add to that creepiness, there is one really subtle moment where Tommy Doyle actually goes full on creepy. When Kara and Danny are taken to the Mrs. Blankenship boarding house where Tommy Doyle lives, they get to the computer of Tommy and they are looking at the thorn symbol on the computer screen. At this time, Kara is lowering head to look more closely to the monitor. At this very time, her hair is getting very close to Tommy. And at this moment, Tommy is giving this very short, subtle, but pretty clear, creepy look at Kara.
Yeah. Tommy clearly is sniffing
Yeah.
Kara's hair on that moment.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just Paul Rudd being creepy.
Well, I don't know, because basically, everybody is fucking creepy in this movie one way or another.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
you're
but
right.
yeah, I got that exact same thing
Yeah.
in that scene, and you tie that with the fact that the first time that Tommy's character is introduced, well, the exact first time is through the radio show, but it's pretty soon shown that he is spying on Kara through via the camera in his room. So the perving aspect is introduced right away, and then there's all that hair sniffing. And there's even the fact that before Tommy starts to give his exposition on the Thorn cult, he apparently took the time to light up like 20 candles in his room.
Mm-hmm.
And it just does not come together in any way or form.
It tells to the audience that there was more to it than you would first maybe think. He's not only looking for Michael Myers. And in fact, that doesn't make any freaking sense. If he would want to look for Michael Myers, he would probably be looking around the sanitarium or kind of expand the search field a little bit instead of just the Kara's window.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, yeah, keeping tabs on Michael's house or previous residence really, at this point where the canon has taken the whole thing, it's really not what you would be supposed to do.
Yeah.
But then again, to all the nonsense revolving around Michael, I also can't understand how the fuck does Haddonfield all of a sudden come into the conclusion that Michael Myers is dead simply because he has not shown up in 6 years. I mean, in the canon of the theatrical version, everybody knows that Michael Myers escaped police custody at the end of Halloween 5. Yeah, that's where the theatrical cut kind of leaves the situation. Yeah, after his escape, Michael just has not been around for 6 years and everybody thinks that he's dead.
Yeah. During the thorn symbol in the barn, well, it seems we're never getting out of this scene. But during this, the song by Brother Kane is playing. And this is also the song that is in the end credits. Also other songs by the band are playing. I believe it's during the Barry Sims event in Haddonfield. I like the song. I think it has received some not so favorable comments, but in fact I have bought this album as a kid simply because of this song. And I remember that I was kind of liking a few other songs on the album as well. I think it's a pretty solid rock song, very 90s, very, very, very 90s spirit rock song.
So tell me again, how on earth you were not a Halloween 6 fan as a kid?
Well, it's just one song.
Exactly my point. You buy the album for simply one song which plays on Halloween 6.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like a fanboy to me.
It's a fanboy of the song. This particular song. Something clicked. It's not perfect, but I really like it. And the crunchy guitar. It's great. Even though somebody says that it's ripped off from Alice in Chains, I don't care. It's a solid song. And the best part about The Curse of Michael Myers, may I say.
Are you calling the best scene already?
Yes, end credits. I like one scene with Paul Rudd when he comes to the hospital with the Stephen baby and asks for help because apparently the baby might be injured or might have suffered a little bit of a trauma in the hands of Jamie Lloyd Truck. But apparently the hospital staff is full of idiots, so instead of getting any kind of help, they are just calling the security. I mean, yeah, granted, he's shouting like a maniac, but it's about the child.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a hospital in Haddonfield. Clearly, they do not accept any patients who are somehow getting emotional about injured babies.
This is kind of a throwback to Halloween too. I see the reference. Yeah. The careless Karen with her babies.
But then again, on this same scene, it's good to notice that good old Sam Loomis has still kept his old habit of hanging around random hospitals for no reason at all.
Yes, and again, this is the problem of the theatrical cut. Because that was always so out of place. Because Loomis is just standing in a hospital. Well, granted, just moments prior, we see that Jamie Lloyd has been found, and that's probably the reason that he is there. But why is he in the hospital lobby? And, well, it just seems really random to bump up into Dr. Loomis in this hospital.
It seems, it kind of well, the odds are really on your favor to bump up on Loomis in this hospital, even in the producer's cut, which gives an explanation why Loomis is there.
Yeah.
But it's even more bizarre here in theatrical cut, where Loomis just is hanging around in the hospital for no reason at all.
Yeah, this kind of, at first glance, it seems very convenient as well. But actually, it's, it's good background checking from Daniel Franz. You can definitely see that he is a fan, so that he's able to pull these kind of things together. Like the family that adopted Laurie Strode, the Strodes, they live now in the Myers house. This makes sense because it has been established in the first one that the Laurie Strode family is in the reality business.
Yeah, so of course you want to move into the house, which once born the masked serial killer that went through Haddonfield and tried to stab Laurie Strode.
Well, imagine if you are the realty agent and you have trouble selling this house. You can probably score a pretty sweet deal for this house, move into it. Then again, if you trying to make sense of everything, they have made some considerable changes to the house from its original look.
Once again, yeah.
We are left to assume that they have spent a shitload of money to repair that house.
Well, the mayor of Haddonfield, once he ordered the Myers mansion to be torn down, did no longer find the original blueprints for the Myers house and had to just hire in another contractor, another architect to kind of redesign the house.
Yep.
Still makes perfect sense.
Totally. So Loomis goes creeping into the Strode Myers house and he's having a cup of coffee and yeah.
Once again, randomly just breaking into other people's homes.
Mrs. Strode, is everything all right? Everything was all right before you came along.
Precisely. Out of a sudden, Sam Loomis appears and he brought a jump scare with him.
That's the first Sam Loomis jump scare, yeah. This is Sam Loomis's revenge after Halloween 1, when he's behind the bush and ambushed by Sheriff Meeker.
Yeah. All of these years, Sam Loomis has just quietly biding his time when he too can pull off that stunt.
So he sits down with Mrs. Strode and there's this quote: "Don't let your family suffer the same fate that Laurie and her daughters suffered." Is this really in the theatrical cut? Yes, it is, because it's in my theatrical notes. Yeah.
It is it is in theatrical cut.
So what does this mean? Because now this quote is breaking the continuity of Halloween 4-5. Because let's see. Don't let your family suffer the same fate that Laurie and her daughter suffered. Laurie, as far as I'm aware, was killed in the car accident and had nothing to do with Michael Myers. But now Dr. Loomis is establishing another possibility that it was actually Michael Myers that made the car crash happen or something.
Well, maybe Loomis is just trying to, make the entire Haddonfield finally forgot Ben Tramer. And whose fault was that?
Are you suggesting that Dr. Loomis has something to do with the death of Laurie Strode? I can imagine him with his pistol trying to shoot the tires of Laurie Strode's car, thinking that Michael Myers is inside it. Sheriff Meeker is still shouting, "Don't shoot!"
or maybe Laurie Strode was just, driving down the street, and Sam Loomis had creeped into the back seat, was hiding there, just waiting his time to, to pull off the jump scare stunt on Laurie Strode, and then Loomis just jumps from the back seat to scare Laurie, and Laurie gets really scared, and just the car spins out of her control and flips over, and
Loomis
so
survives.
after that, Loomis quickly makes his escape from the crime scene.
Next up is the pumpkin crush moment. Tommy surprises, again creepily, Danny on the road. Danny walking along the road is kind of supposed to be reminiscent of the first Halloween when Laurie Strode is walking down the road and the Panaglide is gliding nicely. So it's supposed to be some kind of a throwback. In fact, if we talk about the script a little bit, Danny Strode is being bullied by some kids during the same scene. So there is this another throwback now to Tommy Doyle. And then Tommy Doyle makes the pumpkin to break this time. Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah, it's once again, these old namesdale characters from the franchise pulling off jump scares on new victims.
Yeah, sorry.
It's not just Loomis pulling this shit. Tommy Doyle is on it also.
All from what I've gathered is that basically everything that they say about the thorn here is incorrect. Because there is some kind of an ancient symbol.
So in order to make an episode about Halloween 6, you actually went on full cultist and started to study weird sacrificial cults.
Yeah.
Like that's the dedication you get in this podcast.
This is probably by far the most workloaded episode if you really want to dive into all these little nuances that the movie is putting out there. Thorn is a letter. It's Old English, Gothic, Old Norse letter, and also part of the modern Icelandic alphabet, apparently.
Well, if you start to go on full cultist for Halloween 6 and its Thorn plot lines, just in case, once we hit some kind of a movie dealing with Jack the Ripper mythos, and for that episode you find yourself mysteriously stabbing prostitutes at the Polish night. Let me just give you already a heads up. What you really need to do before the murder spree is start packing up on bleach.
Well, since we're talking about Poland, I always want to ask this from other Finns and everyone else. What is the first thing that comes to mind of Poland for you?
Witcher,
okay. I mean, what do you think is the general idea of Finns about Poles?
Like, my knowledge of Poland is limited to Witcher and CD Projekt Red.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Finns generally don't have much of an understanding about Poland or some kind of like a very formed idea of what this country is about.
Yeah, and now since gaming is once again on the rise, I think we will soon forget the whole Second World War.
The best known thing about Finns that I hear from other countries is that they drink a lot of beer and vodka, which could be said about the Poles too, in fact.
Well, seeing how technically at this moment this podcast is made by a Finn and a Pole.
Fake Pole.
I would say that, the general stereotype has some merit on this case.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a bit of an inside scoop here after living here for it's almost 3 years, ladies and gentlemen. But to carry on with the podcast, there may be a throwback to the wood-powered laundry center from Halloween 1, which appeared to be not working, and then it's working again. Well, anyway. The laundry is rolling, apparently without a power. Well, it's not ever explained why the power is coming to the laundry machine, even though everything else is shut down. And this is also kind of made even more clear by John Strode, because he's really confused how this machine could be working at that time. Well, let's look past that, at least for now. Then we realize that Michael Myers is actually doing some household work, and he has been putting on the laundry machine to wash some clothes, and they apparently are full of blood, so Michael thought that he would be kind of the good kid at least for 5 minutes for this Halloween night to clean up the laundry of Mrs. Strode.
Yeah, I mean, sorry for killing your wife and all, but hey, at least I did the laundry. Can you imagine the headache that John Strode would have if, he would come home after a hard day of drinking and would notice that not only is his wife dead, but also the goddamn sheets are once again covered in blood.
Michael is not much of a cook, it seems, but at least he did the laundry.
Well, at least, God bless the man. Truly a saint.
And at this point, I just have to go to the script for a while. In the script, John comes home, sits on the sofa, sneers, flicks on the television with the remote control and settles back into his easy chair. And in this television, there's a scene from Halloween 3. A boy shreds his pumpkin mask as a mass of beetles and snakes pour out of his skull. And then we continue back to John. John says, "What the hell is this shit?" And then it continues. Disgusted, he switches channels to the local news. A shrill beep from the kitchen startles him. The microwave. And he goes to the microwave, and then he goes back to the television. And it continues. Someone has switched it back to Halloween 3, when he just had previously switched it to another channel. A computer-generated pumpkin causes more masked heads to explode. John shakes the remote. Out of the corner of his eye, he catches a shadowy figure darting by in the darkened foyer. John says, "Is that you little brat, Danny?" And then John rises, about to go for him, when suddenly the power cuts out, and then the entire house is plunged into blackness. And John says, "When I get my hands on you, kid, you're gonna wish you were never born." And then it continues pretty much as per usual.
So even the movie is trying to tell that the anthology road of Halloween 3 would have been preferable compared to Halloween 6.
Oh, is it? I thought it was kind of the other way around. The Halloween 6 gets a thumbs up here, and fuck Halloween 3.
Well, that's kind of a, high notion to be made by Halloween 6 of all movies.
Yeah. So then Kara loses Danny twice, because she's a great mother, of course. And there is this moment when Tommy says to Kara, "And Kara, whatever you do," and how would you complete that sentence? In my mind, I'm already completing the sentence as "don't fall asleep."
Don't come back for the sequel.
Yeah, which is Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, it most definitely is not that, because the rights went to goddamn Weinsteins. There was a possibility for that. Back at the time when New Line was interested on the rights for Halloween franchise, but they lost the bidding war.
Right. The Barry Sims show starts in Haddonfield, and Barry Sims gets killed. In this theatrical cut, gets killed apparently in his own van, which kind of makes more sense. We get to the producer's cut someday, and we'll explain that as well. But in both of these cuts, there is this kid is not very okay. There is blood dripping from the tree, and the kid keeps saying that it's raining red. She doesn't understand that it's blood. Doesn't make sense.
Well, to her defense, she's currently in Halloween movie, where a lot of fucking things doesn't make any sense.
Too many people have read the script in this movie.
For example, Michael traveling from his house to the DJ's van to kill Paris Sims and then back to his house.
Well, I'm jumping again, but in the producer's cut, there's like a small scene where you can see Michael Myers just when Tim and his girlfriend get to the house. Michael Myers is already there, right?
Yep.
Oh, wow, what a teleport. And then Michael Myers comes to terrorize people to the Blankenship residence. There is again this parallel that has been done God knows how many times already in this series. The parallel or the throwback to Halloween 1 with the door slamming and Michael Myers chasing them before they get into the house when in the last second, this time Dr. Sam Loomis opens the door for Kara. And of course this scene is powered by the awesome Halloween guitar tune. Then immediately we get to Dr. Wynn's demonic voice. He can pull it off apparently in reality as well, not just in Danny's dreams or his visions. So we heard this, "Danny, come to me." And it gets even more kind of exciting, I guess, when we are realizing that Mrs. Blankenship is also part of the cult. And Kara jumps out of the Doyle Blankenship, or is it Blankenkamp window?
Blankenship.
Yeah, I mean, Heather Langenkamp and all. But there's this terrible cut from Kara falling down to Tommy and Loomis at the front yard after being drugged. Why did they not just continue with the scene where they wake up drugged or something? They just literally got from the falling down to the same place on the front porch or front yard and they are there. Now standing and oh, what's happening? It's bad editing. But okay, necessarily not bad editing per se because the script goes a little bit differently here. We can get to that later perhaps. But they probably just didn't shoot enough material for the editor to even make any freaking sense out of this. So this is the choice that he had to work with.
It does beg the question, why the hell did they not shoot the scene where Wynn and his cronies actually do drug Loomis and Tommy?
Well, as we have already noticed, this production has been epically flawed, even maybe more so than Halloween 5. Then Loomis, of course, just to kind of drive the plot and narrative forwards, he knows exactly what is going on. He knows that it's his game, and I know where he wants to play it. Why? What? How do you know that? Why would Dr. Wynn do that? Well, he apparently did, because they're still alive, but why to make it even more complicated for the cult? I mean, in the script, if I understood it correctly, it's making the case that Dr. Loomis and Tommy are dragged through the doors to the sanitarium at the same time when all the other posse are gathered to the sanitarium. So that makes more sense. So the cult is dragging them through the doors and I believe it's Dr. Wynn who is opening the doors with his sanitarium card, which later Dr. Loomis snatches from Dr. Wynn later on.
But that's what you get, when every single character in your movie has read the script.
God damn. Well, Loomis tracks down Wynn and goes to his office. We get this quote from Dr. Wynn that Michael is, quote, pure, uncorrupted, ancient, end quote. What?
Well, I guess Wynn is trying to talk about the franchise, but makes the classic mistake since the franchise sure as fuck ain't pure and uncorrupted at this point.
True. And continues with, we're at the dawn of a new age, Sam. This is a pure Colonel Cochrane moment of Halloween 6.
But then again, once again, they basically, unlike in Cochrane's case, they basically would not be at the door of a new age in this time.
Well, definitely no, this time.
Yeah, I mean, Cochrane was trying to reach the new age by having a mass sacrifice through his bullshit masks.
Yeah, so here the sacrifice is to save people, but in Halloween 3 it's to kill as many people as possible. or something.
Yeah, I mean, this is completely opposite scenario where the cult is actually trying to prevent the mass death of the entire tribe, which would mean that the new age would not start. Would the cult have its way? Instead, the world would just continue same as before, same as the last night.
And similarly, it's left completely unexplained what it even means. Or maybe this is just a reference that it's a new age for Michael Myers, that he is finally freed from the curse and it's transported to, well, in theatrical cut, nobody that we would know of, but someone. Okay, but this whole transferring of the power is not explained in any way in the theatrical cut.
No, it's left completely open.
God, this is madness. I mean, the whole plot is madness, but then you even start cutting holes into the madness, and you come up with a completely different kind of madness where you cannot read what the madness is supposed to be about.
Well, that pretty much is Halloween 6 for you. Enjoy. But, to the film's defense, this is not exactly the first and only time that this has happened to a movie under Harvey Weinstein. Like, Harvey was actually quite notorious for exactly this kind of or before the whole Me Too campaign, Harvey was extremely notorious for his habit to groping the film reels.
Yeah.
To a point where he was nicknamed as Harvey the Scissorhands.
The original script also kind of goes to this direction. The page says that Loomis confronts Wynn, who reveals he wants to control and study the power of Thorn. So there's also this kind of subplot aspect. He wants to study and control the power of Thorn. Okay. Alright, continuing. Wynn wants Loomis to join in on his conspiracy, and reveals that Jamie's baby represents a new cycle of Michael's evil that he kept secret from most of the cult, who were focused on inflicting the curse onto a new child, which is Danny, to carry out a new trend of family sacrifices.
Yeah, he kind of has to study how the whole ideology around which he has formed his own cult works.
Yeah, that's
true.
Oh.
Well, hey, better late than never.
Yeah, there's that. He had like the foundation somehow, and then he kind of he's trying to get he's trying to get scientific with something that is not exactly very scientific.
He really wanted to have a cult, and then he found this thorn, and now he tries to figure out what it actually is and what he's supposed to do with it.
Ah, I got it. Dr. Wynn has just received a degree from Sciences in Ancient Religions and Cults, and now he's working on his thesis, and he needs to do a scientific study for that. Unfortunately, because of the field of practice and the subject that he has chosen for his point of study is so out there and so not controllable in the real world that all we can do is to call it pseudoscientific effort only for Dr. Wynn to legitimize his bullshit cult nonsense.
So basically this is an academic study of Dr. Wynn's that has been 3 decades in the making.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, slow guy.
Yeah, well, you need a strong foundation before you can actually, hand in your thesis.
And
I should know, I study in university.
Yeah, you have the edge on that. Because in Finland, for some reason, the university is considered something that is not necessarily important in your life. And I would beg to differ. Dr. Wynn, I can kind of feel your pain here. You're just trying so hard to make sense out of this nonsense for 30 years. And you just really want to graduate with some kind of papers. You finally, You try, but, well, the story doesn't end if you actually graduate. Well, anyway.
Well, yeah, it's a shitty situation since Dr. Wynn really needs that degree so he can find any other job than, being the head administration of Smith's Grove Asylum.
Yeah, that's the reason why he's retiring. In the theatrical cut, there is the added crazy person in the maximum security ward with these beautiful teeth.
And apparently a stab wound in the stomach.
Yes, apparently. There's some really weird cutting that doesn't make any sense right there as well. The whole character is just could have been removed.
Yeah, I never understood what the crazy person is supposed to kind of do, except show us that it is still a mental asylum, I guess. But what was the point of that character?
I don't know, because to me it's just showing that Michael Myers is out there, but we already know that, and we also know that very well when Michael comes to the corridor when Tommy Doyle is trying to get Kara Strode out of the room. So, yeah, I don't know.
It's once again nastiness for nastiness sake in this movie.
Yeah. Oh, indeed, the theatrical cut, in that one, she's just in this one mental ward room, but in the producer's cut, it's nowhere to be seen. It's about this. It's more centered on this cult shit. And here we cut to the infamous epilepsy operation scene. And still to this day, none of the versions of the movie, as far as we know, explain at all what this operation is about. But there apparently is an operation. To make things even more convoluted, in this room, in the operation room, there's Dr. Wynn. And is the child there? Are they operating on the child or about to operate on the child?
If I remember correctly, the child or, the baby is not there. For my understanding, Danny is not there either.
Yes, that's my understanding.
Yeah, even though I guess Wynn did, capture him back at the Mrs. Blankenship residence.
Yeah, indeed, they are operating or about to operate on something when Michael Myers gets to the operating room and just decides, out of completely unknown reasons, he botches up all the people, and in the next room, behind the door, Danny and the child, Stephen, are just looking out of the window. And in yet another room, Kara and Tommy are observing the situation, and they are able to observe both of these rooms. And when things go haywire, then Tommy and Kara grab the kids and start running out of the place. Yeah. Apparently the movie just needed some kind of a excuse to start the chase scene.
Yeah, well, that's my take on the whole subject.
Yeah. For these chase scenes, George P. Wilbur, he might be acting in some parts of the hospital, but some of the parts he is not, because another dude was called in because director Joe Chappelle decided that George P. Wilbur is way too bulky. Well, there is something finally that I can kind of agree with Mr. Chappelle, because he is way too bulky. We saw that in Halloween 4. Well, in Halloween 4 he also had these shoulder pads. Here I'm not so sure, but whoever it is in some of these scenes, he looks kind of weird. Like a very different kind of bulky character. His arms are kind of away from his body. It looks kind of funny. Anyway.
Well, it's hard for me to say, because at that time I was really trying to avoid looking at the screen since all the epilepsy was happening.
Yeah, even I'm not known for any kind of epileptic seizures, but good grief, it's really hard to watch that scene.
I mean, I can, just imagine how it must have felt, to be in a movie theater, seeing this one on big screen.
I can imagine.
And the strobe effect being on full power there. And
imagine the poor actors doing that scene, maybe repeatedly.
Well, at least, I can believe that the terror was real.
Yeah, and then we open even more plot points. We get to this room where there apparently are embryos of unfinished Michael Myers replacement baby killers or something like shit like that.
It could be just, random collection of embryos. I mean, I can fully get behind that one. I mean, who wouldn't want his own collection of embryos?
Very reminiscent of Alien Resurrection. This always reminds me of the Alien Resurrection. This is 2 years older movie than Resurrection. Well, we get to the epic pipe final of the theatrical cut. This whole final totally smells like something that was thought up in 5 minutes, and probably there is no screenplay or storyboard for this sequence. It looks like it was something that was put together right there and then. Well, Michael Myers is pumped up with green shit, which is probably the answer why Michael Myers' brain is also leaking green shit when he's getting hit by the pipe. And that's my take on it. That's the reason. Because his blood has been replaced by green shit. I don't know how you can kind of scientifically justify that, but it's a thorn. It's still not studied completely. It's in the works by Dr. Wynn. We will have to wait for his study to know what happened.
Yeah.
And then basically the movie has ended. I mean, Loomis escapes with the gang from the sanitarium. Michael gets the pipe, and Loomis decides that he has some kind of unfinished business to do, decides to stay at the sanitarium, but the next shot do not explain what the unfinished business would have been.
Well, I guess it was just, stand outside of the sanitarium and scream. Really fucking loudly.
Well, yeah, it's like, I understand now. Because all of those years of pain that has been inflicted upon Donald Pleasence's son Loomis, he just asks the Tommy Doll gang to get out of his sight so he can just finally go like, roar! Explains it perfectly. And the final shot is with the pumpkin, and one shot before that it's Michael Myers' mask lying on the floor, and with the green shit needle, I suppose. One of them. One of the three. So it's completely open to interpretation what happened there. Actually, so much so up for interpretation that I have completely no idea how to put this one together in my head. Well, he just left his mask there and went home. Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, I guess what the movie is trying to hint is that the green shit maybe was some kind of a fucking horse tranquilizer or something like that, which renders Michael powerless enough that he can be finished off with simple steel pipe. And then he recovers super quickly and rises from the ground, no longer being bound by the horse tranquilizer, and wanders outside and just kills off Loomis. I mean, maybe that's where the movie was trying to go, but it really does not come through.
Yeah, it's really confusing. We have already covered so many confusing things that have been left unexplained. But then this ending, I can just imagine being in the theater and just shaking my head like, what? Just going home, very confused.
Or then you would still be just shaking your head simply from the epileptic seizure.
Half of the crowd suffering from epileptic seizures. So Chappelle in the back row, smiling silently.
Yeah, I fucking made it.
Yeah, plan has come to fruition.
And this was simply the theatrical cut. Like, we still have the whole fucking producer's version to go through.
Oh god. Just to give my final thoughts on the ending, I believe what I was thinking when the movie ended was that Sam Loomis went back to the hospital, saw that Michael Myers was nowhere to be seen, and he just disappeared into the night and Loomis was terrified. Or Loomis was terrified and Loomis was hurt by Michael.
Or then Loomis simply was screaming out of anger because after hearing that Tommy was able to beat Michael with steel pipe, Loomis too wanted to go back in and just give Michael a few good swings with his cane, and now he notices that Michael has left the building.
Would I recommend the theatrical cut of Halloween 6? No.
No, yeah. Same answer from here.
Yeah.
Like this is not worth of your time at all.
It's not, and soon we will cover the infamous producer's cut that many teenage fans probably think as some kind of a holy grail of the series that finally saw the official release a few years ago, and that it's supposedly much better than this cut. Well, we will check that out right now.
Yeah, my understanding is that it is the general consensus that the producer's cut would be the superior version of the film.
Alas,
there is some really big problems when it comes to the producer's cut. Some really big problems.
Really? Okay, let's get to that. So this version is slightly longer than the theatrical cut, but just by, what was it, like, let's say 6 to 7, 8 minutes longer. But
somewhere around that ballpark, like, was it something like 6.5 or?
Yeah. Was it like 88 and 95 minutes respectively?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
something like that.
The theatrical cut is pretty short, in fact. Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about the TV version of this movie. There is also the TV version of this movie, which is the theatrical cut, but with some added scenes from the producer's cut to make the movie long enough to be shown in television in 1995. So I think they included like 2 minutes perhaps of the more material to accommodate, and I think it was 90 minutes long. Yeah.
So yeah. Once again, Halloween 6 and the fucking endless versions of the film.
Mm-hmm. In this version, we start up again with Jamie screaming and being taken with the stretcher across the hallway in the druid underworld. But this time we are not getting the beautiful strobo effect. So there is more cohesiveness in the producer's cut. The producer's cut is more cohesive in the bullshit world that it has built for itself.
At least, one case which is shown in the right at the beginning of the film is that the producer's cut actually explains how the hell Haddonfield can actually believe that Michael Myers is dead. It shows that there was an explosion produced at the sheriff's station in order to cover up the fact that Michael Myers had escaped or as it turns out, was kidnapped alongside with Jamie.
These are the kind of plot holes that you have in theatrical cut because somebody went crazy in the editing room and decided to do a music video for Michael Jackson.
Then again, at the same time, this is the version where Michael Myers, the mysteriously and famously strong serial killer who can toss people around like they are paper objects, can be overcome by simply two persons who hijack Michael Myers and throw him inside the back of the van.
Oh yeah.
when they kidnap him from the sheriff's station. Like that's all it takes, Then you see Michael Myers with single hand stroking people and holding them up in the air. Later on, this same goddamn movie, so...
Okay, but in the producer's cut, Michael Myers is a little softer with his hands. Let me give you an example. He's taken with two guys into the van, which is hilarious in itself. But later on, when Jamie escapes the underworld, she goes to the truck driver's car. In the producer's cut, I believe he doesn't rip his head off, like halfway, but it's just twisted around. So he has lost some of his mystical powers in the producer's cut. It's a little bit more downplayed.
Well, still doesn't save John Strode.
The John Strode killing scene, I prefer the one in theatrical cut. It's ridiculous, but somehow it works, and it's rewarding to see him explode, because that's what he deserves.
A theatrical cut has a exploding head, and that is always a good plus point for any kill scene.
Yeah.
And that is what makes it definitely the best kill of the theatrical cut, the exploding head. The producer's cut makes John Strode just a slightly less of an asshole. Like here John gets that one redeeming line, which does not help much, but at least it's something.
This moment when Jamie's scream is cut off as the stranger descends upon her. This movement when the man in black comes to get Jamie in 1989 at the police station, he kind of glides into the frame in an interesting way. It always caught my attention. Well, now I heard that in the script it says that Jamie's scream is cut off as the stranger descends upon her like the angel of death. So that's what they're apparently trying to do there.
Well, it does not look anything like Angel of Death.
Yeah, it looks like Man in Black on rails. In the producer's cut, many of the scenes are played longer. For example, the Mary character, there's a little bit of more of this chasing and waiting for Michael Myers to appear. In that sense, the theatrical cut is tighter, but not always in the best sense, because then it kind of cuts the plot points. But otherwise, yeah. What they're trying to do with producer's cut is more like maybe more like a classical facing of Halloween with some thorn shit added to it.
Yeah, I really don't know what on earth they were trying to do with producer's cut.
There was like a battle of the versions, theatrical cut, the producer's cut, and so finally someone somewhere decided that they need to go with the theatrical cut in the end.
It was, if I remember correctly, it was Mustafa Akkad versus Weinstein's The Fight, where Mustafa wanted the producer's cut to be the one that has the theatrical release, and it went into a court battle at the end, and the judge finally decided the case for the Weinsteins.
Yeah, did it really go to court? Jesus.
As far as I know, they did.
Yeah. We can talk a little bit about the script, I guess, as well during this. When Danny is having this nightmare, the nightmare scene is actually played out in the script. Danny wakes up. Tim is trying to calm down Danny. He's just saying something funny, and then Danny is kind of smiling again. John Strode is saying something rude, like, "What's wrong with this brat again?" Blah, blah, blah. The producer's cut scene with the Danny's nightmare, it makes much more sense because we see how Karri Strode is trying more to comfort her child, whereas in the theatrical cut, it looks like he doesn't really care too much.
Then again, Kara's bedtime spell is once again cringy as fuck.
Yeah, go away, monsters, or what was the line?
I'm trying to forget, actually. It's a small wonder why in every goddamn movie always these bedtime spells are this bad.
The producer's cut also immediately establishes that Tommy is Tommy. When Tommy says that he's Tommy to the radio station, Barry Sims. In the theatrical cut, it's cut, and then it just follows from there on. It's just a small change. Maybe there's nothing really to comment on that.
Like I said, I like how the radio show works as a segue from one scene to the next, and that effect, I think, is more enhanced in the producer's cut, where the scenes are slightly longer, and this way the segue effect, I feel, is stronger in the producer's cut.
Dr. Woon comes to House of Loomis. The scene makes much more sense in the producer's cut. There is this comment about Dr. Loomis having plastic surgery. So, don't know what to think about that. At least the movie kind of explains why he's not wearing this omelette makeup.
At the same time, it still does raise the question of the fully grown beard.
Plastic surgery. Answer to anything.
Plastic beard. You know, but it is nice actually to have this bit longer version of Wynn meeting Loomis, because I always liked the scene that shows that Loomis has finally retired and is ready to leave behind his battle with Michael and get some kind of peace, even if it finally turns out that it is only temporarily, but still I do like it. I like seeing Loomis at peace and,
Yeah.
enjoying a drink with an old friend.
Yeah, it was all nice and beautiful until Dr. Wynn actually comes out as the Man in Black.
Yeah.
Dr. Wynn should know that it's not wise to play Halloween pranks on him. There is also the added comment on Loomis that he had the stroke 6 years ago. I'm not sure if they are referring to the end of Halloween 5 where he falls on Don Shanks or the Michael Myers in that movie. Or is it something that happened after that is not related in any way to the movie?
Maybe it's an attempt to explain why Loomis was ready to finally retire and give up on his obsession with Michael Myers.
But he also says that after his stroke, everybody kind of tried to push him out of the sanitarium, but he just kept on going. But he had a change of, no pun intended, heart and decided to retire.
Well, maybe he just reacted late to his stroke.
Yeah. In the producer's cut, the lavatory scene is much better as well, because it's more relaxed in its editing. In the theatrical cut, I believe Michael Myers is already on the second toilet door, pushing it open, and then we cut to Jamie right about there, that she's still sitting on the toilet seat, and that leaves about less than 5 seconds for Jamie Lloyd and the baby to get out of the window without making any noise that Michael would notice. But whereas in the producer's cut, he's still walking slowly to the doors.
Not only for Jamie to get out, but actually stash the baby and then get out.
Yeah. That's some mad skills.
That's, what being head captain by the cult for 6 years does to you.
And then there is the kind of a plot problem that why are the Man in Black or the cult or Michael Myers not going through the entire route that Jamie Lloyd took that night and look for the baby, because it would be so easy to find, I would imagine. But then again, there's something wrong with this baby, because at a strategic moment, he is not crying.
Even the goddamn baby has read the script.
Fuck.
God damn it.
Jamie goes to the barn. She decides to have a nice sit on the hay and completely loses her grip on her surroundings, because obviously it doesn't make any sense that Michael would now come and murder her. So she just keeps sitting there and gets stabbed in her back.
And this is the version where Jamie's corpse is left lying in the middle of the barn, and if we would come back to the Red Hot brand fire truck making the symbol of Thorn into hay, now this time they would be cruising all over Jamie's body.
Yeah. Wow, the effort of this cult, man.
Yeah.
Before the breakfast scene, we have an added scene where Dr. Wynn and Dr. Loomis are discussing, I believe, in the sanitarium, what they should do about the new information that they have received from a radio show. And Loomis says that he doesn't have any more enough strength to go through this cold shit alone. So he's asking for Dr. Wynn's help of all people.
Well, at the time, Loomis still was under the impression that Wynn's on his side and his trusty old friend.
Yeah.
Instead of obsessing over Michael Myers, Loomis really should have watched more cheap horror films.
The moment when I believe Dr. Wynn's secretary says that it will be wonderful to have you back at the sanitarium, then Dr. Loomis is doing this appreciative nod towards her. In the script it's more awkward, where Dr. Wynn notices that Loomis is feeling very unpleasant about the fact that Dr. Wynn has discussed with his secretary that Loomis is coming back, and Dr. Loomis has still, as far as we know, not made any reference to such a thing that he would actually be returning to the facility as chief administrator. So Dr. Wynn notices that this is awkward for him, and he immediately changes the topic to discuss more about Michael Myers. And then we got to the breakfast scene,
where Michael Myers now needs a little child to do his killings for him.
Yep. The stomach pounder scene is extended. It's better, and we get a little hearty laugh from Kara. I enjoyed that.
I enjoyed how this scene once again shows that Vin has some kind of a psychic link to Danny, which is never explained how that is possible since they are not blood in any way.
It's either a connection with the Man in Black or it's a connection with Michael Myers, who has a tape recorder in his hand with the speeches of Man in Black when needed.
But, that does not explain all those kill your entire family for me nightmares that poor Danny is suffering.
Yeah, well, Dr. Wynn is still working on the thesis and the study, so apparently there is some kind of magical powers that you can get from this, whatever it is, Thorn.
You lose your magical powers when you finally hand over your thesis. Which is exactly why every university student always tries to push it to the last possible minute.
Yeah, but this hearty laugh from Kara gives kind of a nice contrast to what's to follow next, which is John Strode being an asshole for the entire family. So
once again,
yeah, it shows the whole spectrum of what is possible to happen in this house and how the characters feel about each other. It's great. And the Kara Strode's actor is really good here. I can see only one bastard in this house and getting slapped. Next added scene is when Danny is about to go to school, and Kara is comforting Danny about what happened in the kitchen. That I think she's saying that, don't worry, grandfather is not able to hurt me, even though he actually just did. Or was it in the script, or is it in the producer's cut? Not sure. I'm confusing my versions.
It was in the producer's cut.
Okay. Next shot is back at the house where John Strode says that Kara Strode is no longer her daughter.
Well, you have to have strong family values.
Absolutely.
And Kara did have a bastard, so...
There are some really good dialogue from Dr. Loomis in this cut that was left on the cutting room floor because of not releasing this version. Dr. Loomis sees Jamie on the stretchers. Dr. Wynn says that let them take care of her. And then the new sheriff in Haddonfield is apparently an asshole. Here we get to the interesting fact that the more Dr. Loomis helps this cursed town of Haddonfield, the less the police are interested in helping him. And probably the best dialogue from Dr. Loomis in this movie is here, when he's saying that, I suppose it was a ghost who did all this, and I suppose the ghost killed Jamie, and however the line went.
This is also the weird case, once again in the franchise, where Michael Myers fails to kill his target from a point-blank stab, as the worst that happens to Jamie is that she ends up in coma from her meeting with Michael Myers.
Yeah, then we get a throwback to original Halloween, when Kara Strode is walking around the campus area, I believe. She's startled by a teenager couple who is kissing and the girl is screaming. But there's some shitty camera work here, so I can understand why this was left alone. I mean, there is this pan towards Kara from behind her back, just when in the last shot she was shot from the front. And it just looks out of place and very television-ish.
It could be an attempt to recapture that looming presence of Michael Myers, and the film crew once again fucking it up.
Pretty much, because nothing happens in that scene. Then we get to the hospital reception where Dr. Wynn apparently gets a call to his beeper and leaves Donald Pleasence conveniently alone, and then we get Dr. Loomis and Tommy Doyle alone.
This time the Loomis hanging around at the hospital premises actually finally makes some goddamn sense and is logical. And then again, something that is not logical in any way is once again the hospital staff's reaction to Tommy Doyle and who's looking help for an injured baby.
Yeah, even the producer's cut version of this is flawed, because I do not like how convenient it is that Dr. Wynn moves away immediately when Tommy Doyle is there, and then Tommy Doyle leaves and immediately Dr. Wynn comes back to Loomis.
Yeah, well, it's Haddonfield, the town of improbable odds.
Indeed. Likewise, the discussion between Mrs. Strode and Dr. Loomis is extended. This is the perfect moment to discuss Joe Chappelle's problem with Dr. Loomis scenes and the character, because according to Chappelle, Dr. Loomis is a boring character. So he decided to chop as much as possible of the dialogue that he thought was boring. Way to go. In memory of Donald Pleasence, it says in the end credits. I mean, this guy is just... the guy is just cutting this guy who is basically the only redeeming quality of this goddamn shit show once again.
Yeah, the most trusted and most reliable actor on the entire goddamn franchise. The name's there for 5 films at this point.
Yeah.
And the one character that the fans have always demanded to come back, and which eventually was deemed so important to the franchise that even at this late age of his lifetime, I mean, Donald Pleasence was really old during the filming of Halloween 6. The franchise still was unable and uninterested on letting go of Donald Pleasence, and as seen on the ending of this version, actually still tried to pave the way for, more sequels with Dr. Loomis. So yeah, way to go, That's the character you should most definitely see as the extremely boring one and try to cut out of your film.
Absolutely, and he wasn't particularly old. He was 75, but he had some heart trouble. He had a heart operation after the initial shooting had ended, and he died of the complications of the heart surgery, unfortunately. During the filming of Curse of Michael Myers, he was apparently sick, and you can tell that he's not in a very good health, or he sounds very old in his voice. Maybe it's the age, maybe it's his current condition during the filming.
Then again, it was stated that Donald Pleasence was seemingly tired already during the filming of Halloween 5.
Yeah.
And during Halloween 5, and his performance already in 5 has been said that tiredness kind of already shows through.
I think it was Halloween 4. I think it was Dwight Little, the director of that film, that said that in order to get the maximum strength out of Donald Pleasence in those scenes, the way to do that was to shoot as much as possible of his stuff in a certain amount of time, and then give him a rest for the rest of the day, so he will be again full of energy for those critical hours for the next day.
Yeah, it was something like a couple of hours, maybe 2 or 3 hours, that they managed to get the maximum Donald Pleasence in each day, and then he had to go and rest for the remaining of the day. Already in Halloween 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some people at their 75, they don't have any trouble at all, but apparently he had some health problems, so yeah, it happens.
Unfortunately, it happens. Life is unfair in that way.
Yeah.
But still, even with all that, as noble background and as noble package from Donald Pleasence's behalf, basically everyone involved with Halloween movies and the whole series is still unwilling to let the man go and relieve the Sam Loomis character, which to me kind of speaks volumes on how extremely important Sam Loomis is or was to the Halloween franchise. And then, have Chappelle coming off with his opinion that Loomis is the most boring aspect of the film is kind of like, what franchise are you exactly filming here?
Too many directors with, I believe, huge egos took part of the so-called Thorn trilogy. Dwight Little is probably okay. He's an okay character. But this Dominique Othnan-Girard and this Joe Chappelle guy, they looks like they had way too many wishes of their own what they wanted to do with this series. I mean, you're doing a franchise, so you have to follow the logic and the main established logic of the franchise and not come up with your own shit with Thorn and Men in Black. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but then again, you are dealing with established directors here with long-running careers and many notable cinematic masterpieces under their belts before, jumping on the Halloween franchise. So
yeah, all the best for Mustafa Akkad on wherever he's on top of a cloud, or how does it go in the Quran. But I think he was making a lot of mistakes with this series, and mostly Mustafa is to blame for many of the horrible decisions that they have made with this series. Case in point, Halloween Resurrection also, which we have to cover later on.
In Mustafa's defense, this time the Weinsteins got involved. Like, Dominic Girard is completely Mustafa's fault, but Joe Chappelle, in Chappelle's case, it's divided blame. Everyone who has a producer's credit in this film is to be held accountable on what happened.
For sure.
If it's any consolation to you, I've heard that Harvey Weinstein will get his sentence in coming years.
Hopefully. Wasn't it like the Weinstein completely denied any involvement in those harassings? Unbelievable. What a guy.
But then again, at that situation, what can you do?
Well,
if I would be in his shoes, I wouldn't, admit guilt either, because that is straight out getting the sentence. I don't know. I mean, we are dealing with the American justice system, so maybe cutting a deal, admitting the guilt, and trying to cut a deal for a shorter sentence.
Yeah, that might be the end game if it's still available. Just give a couple of millions of dollars and that's it. That's how it seems to work in that country.
In this might be too publicized case, so he's going to land in some jail time.
Yeah. The next notable scene is the shooting of Jamie Lloyd in the hospital by the Man in Black. Yeah. Well, even when I was a teenager, I could not understand why they would kill basically the main character of this story and then again replace it with something else. Because goddammit, didn't we just learn anything from Halloween 5 where Rachel was killed in the first 10 to 15 minutes, replaced by this annoying character that we have not established from before at all, and also had nothing really going for her. And now we're kind of repeating the same recipe in Halloween 6. Granted, the characters made for Halloween 6 are far more likable than the characters of Halloween 5, so there's that. And actually, in the earlier treatments, of the script, Jamie Lloyd was supposed to appear at the end of the movie and kind of being part of the gang, I believe when they escaped the hospital or something like that. But she was supposed to be there, revealed to be still very much alive.
But I wouldn't be an uptight snob and a complete prick if I wouldn't actually point out that the crew did most definitely learn their lesson from Halloween 5, because it's at the 56-minute mark when Jamie Lloyd gets killed. So he survived much longer than Rachel.
There's that.
Obviously, that was the problem with, axing off Rachel in Halloween 5. You did it too soon.
Yeah. Well, I get the whole that you want to make Michael Myers and his friends so dangerous that even the characters that you care about the most, they are also possible to kill. But you can't do that.
I don't know. I, on the other hand, think that the shooting of Jamie is the best kill in the producer's cut.
It's a really pretty rude kill. Just shooting somebody in the head when they're sleeping.
And it doesn't work as a kill, but it kind of works in a sense that it kind of shows the stakes involved in this situation. It shows how far the actual cult is ready to stretch out its operation. In the theatrical cut, all the violence and the killing is left solely on Michael. So basically, the cult does not openly commit acts of violence. They just outsource everything to Michael. But in here, they show that the cult on its own is also ready to act violently and is a lethal player on the situation.
Yeah, the focus is slightly different.
Yeah. Outside of that, the scene really does not work. The kill is nothing special. You don't even see it. So if you would judge it by the gore factor, it really is nothing. And killing Jamie Lloyd is kind of a boneheaded move, in my opinion, too. I would not have done it. Would I have been at the helm of this film?
Yeah.
But it still shows one side more about the cult and how extremely the cult is ready to operate.
There is this dream sequence where we see again Jamie taken with a stretcher across the white corridors of sanitarium, and we see a shot where the man in black is holding his hands in the air, and again he looks like he's gliding, like he looks like he's on some kind of rails. It looks the same to me as when they snatched Jamie in 1989. In the movie, the thorn symbol is represented as representing evil and sickness, which brings death to hundreds of thousands of people. And this is directly from Tommy Doyle, so it must be accurate. So, according to Celtic legend, one child from each tribe was chosen to be inflicted with the curse of thorn. And this is Michael Myers we're talking about. And he continues, to offer the blood sacrifices to its next of kin on the night of Samhain or Samhain. The sacrifice of one family meant sparing the lives of an entire tribe. So, at this point we already know that Michael Myers is actually a saint out to save hundreds of thousands of people by sacrificing one person, right? If this nonsense is true.
Exactly. Yeah. Once again, the producer's cut does make some alterations in some added scenes.
But it's basically the same thing. It's just adding even more background to this nonsense.
No, it's the goddamn director's cut scenes that add more to the nonsense, making the whole situation a little bit shadier. But
which scene in the director's cut?
Basically, the scene where Wynn is giving Loomis the talk about how he wants to control some unnameable power and wants to control the evil.
Oh yeah. Well.
Which in that scene, it gives kind of a sense that what the Court of Thorn is doing, it's trying to control the evil and the power. But that scene is absent in the theatrical version, and the Thorn's aims and goals are never made clear. So we have to go with what Tommy says about the whole symbol of Thorn and this blood sacrifice and saving the tribe. So in that sense, yeah, Michael Myers is the saint and the Court of Thorn basically are the good guys trying to save the whole tribe by giving this one blood sacrifice.
Exactly. If it is true, then in fact Dr. Loomis is the antagonist of this film.
Yeah, and basically at the end when Tommy and the company foils the Thorn's plans, they basically lead into I don't know if it's a mass murder, a mass genocide. It's hard to say since the limits of what is the tribe in this scenario is never explained. So you don't know who dies and how many people are going to die because the sacrifice is cancelled at the end of the film. But, it could be the entire Haddonfield. It could be the population of United States.
I'm going by that it could be some kind of a ancient understanding of some ancient tribe. So it could be like a long lost tribe. So many of the members of the tribe are now, and their descendants are around the world. So it could be probably anyone.
Yeah, so this could be 25% of Earth's population in the worst case scenario. It depends on, how ancient this tribe is.
Right, yeah. It could be half of the planet.
Yeah. So, yeah, hey, good thing stopping that Thorn count. Nice one.
And he continues, the Druids were also great mathematicians, blah blah blah, and astronomers. The Thorn symbol is actually a constellation that appears from time to time on Halloween night. Whenever it appears, he appears. Wow, so we're basically destroying the simplicity of all the parts of the Halloween franchise. The simplicity of the original Halloween, if you follow this logic, is then completely destroyed. And now whenever you want to see the first Halloween, you are kind of, well, you could look at it through the Thorn cult eyes and just think that he escapes in 1978 really from this hospital just to be this nice guy who tries to sacrifice Laurie Strode that he can save hundreds of thousands of millions or billions of people. But at the same time, he kind of is having fun and still killing random people during that night.
Not only that, but actually you are destroying how astronomy and constellations work.
Yes, also.
Because if you follow this logic, in that case, the constellation would have appeared on the night of the first two Halloween movies, since they go back to back.
Yeah, okay.
Then there would be 10-year gap without the constellation.
Mm-hmm.
Then the constellation would appear right next year by Halloween 5. And then there would be 6-year gap, and it would appear once again during Halloween 6.
Well, it's because Dr. Wynn can control with his cult the location and the rolling speed of planet Earth.
It must be because the star constellation has read the script and knows when it's meant to appear.
That always works.
Yep. Thank God we have this Thorn bullshit here.
Or is it possible that a constellation appears in kind of nonsensical cycles?
It's in this movie.
Well, yeah, in this movie for sure. But okay, well, if it appears in Halloween 4 and Halloween 5, meaning 1988 and 1989, then that kind of suggests that if we follow like a logical constellation appearance schedule, let's say, or what would probably be the logical schedule. I'm not an astronomer, so take that into account. But this suggests that this constellation probably appears every single fucking Halloween night. And we just don't know of the other adventures of Michael Myers in these off-screen years. That's my explanation.
Then again, also that couldn't completely hold the water, because if we go with the logic that Michael, which the movie seems to suggest, that Michael Myers was kind of a mark for Thorne from the beginning, since he was a child. Yeah. Since Mrs. Blankenship makes the notion that as a child Michael heard the voice and that drove him to kill his sister. Right. So basically Michael is tied into the Thorne cult and the constellation.
And voice.
Since he was 6. And then right after that he gets locked up until he's 18.
21.
So 21. Yeah, so he's been 15 years locked up in Smith's Grove.
Yeah.
So basically, during those 15 years, he really can't have had any adventures. So the constellation, it just couldn't have appeared during those 15 years, because it would fuck up the entire thing in that case, because there would be the constellation and Michael Myers couldn't do jack shit because he's locked up.
Or maybe, just maybe, Dr. Wynn let him out on every Halloween night secretly from the sanitarium to, I don't know, maybe they went to Burger King and there were some unexplained deaths and then they came back to the sanitarium.
And I already knew that you would try to make that argument, and I would counter it by stating that Dr. Loomis would never have kind of missed that happening continuously for 15 fucking years. Not by the judging by how extremely tied up with Michael Myers and this notion of Michael being pure evil he was already in Halloween 1.
Yeah, that's...
I'm certain as fuck that Loomis was paying extra close attention to Michael on every single fucking Halloween that Michael spent in Smith's Grove.
Unless he was drugged by Dr. Wynn every Halloween night.
At which point he kind of would have to notice that he starts to have these mysterious headaches and bumps in the head and blackouts every single fucking Halloween for the past 15 years. At which point he most likely would just go and check the security cameras that they must have in a goddamn mental asylum meant for criminally insane.
So this means that Dr. Loomis is in fact brainwashed by the cult of Thorne to not be able to remember these events every single freaking Halloween, and therefore not making sure that the security tapes are looking good.
Well, that kind of would be the only possible explanation. How Michael would have yearly adventures with Dr. Wynn for all those 15 fucking years.
I'm really happy, Henrik, that we are finally cracking down like what this movie is about.
Yeah, thank God, Maybe we should, give a call at this point, to Daniel Farrand and, just let him know that we finally cracked this. And we have still avoided talking about the biggest goddamn sticking point of this version. And I guess we are at the moment of the film when we finally had to address this issue. Since this is, you already mentioned that dream sequence about Jamie.
Yeah.
And through that sequence, we finally get to the whole point of Jamie being raped at the hands of the Thorne cult, which explains the baby and explains the father of the said baby.
Pretty much.
Yeah. We are not yet at the point where the rapist is revealed. But we are at the point where the rape happens.
And this begs the question, or maybe it doesn't, but maybe there should be some kind of an indication, or maybe some hesitation on Jamie's part for her feelings towards this baby, because the father happens to be her uncle. The script establishes that the midwife is called Mary, first of all, and then Jamie says, "Mary, Mother of God, please make it stop. Please, don't let it be born." She calls it "it" and asks it not to be born. That's interesting.
Yeah, the whole rape plotline it's kind of the worst thing we have gotten in this franchise at this point.
It is. It's in fact so unbelievable that it took a bit of convincing for some fans to really believe that this is the source of the baby's seed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so out there. What the hell is going on?
It's like...
Like, why? Were they even were they even realizing what they were writing here? Like, I think it's never... It's only explained by Kara, in case Kara is correct, when she is about to be, I believe, raped by Michael or something.
Yeah, because, one rape scene is not enough for your fucking movie.
Yeah, okay, what is going on there? She's on the altar. Let's assume she's about to be raped. Then what was the point of raping Jamie? And what is now the point of the new raping? And how is Danny related to all of this? So let's say this is another ritual for same kind of stuff. They have to kill Steven, the baby. They have to kill the would-be baby of Kara. And then Danny would be the next killer.
They're kind of continuing the bloodline, which they have to kill off completely for the ritual to work. Like, that's what the cult is doing here with all this fucking rape. And so the logic does not work in that sense. And there is no point, or I see no explanation why you would have to, or why you would introduce rape as an element in this movie, or why you would have incest in this movie.
And this begs the question, how is the VR Ouija script worse than this one? What was going through Mustafa's head when he said and decided that, yes, this is the script with which we go, where Michael Myers is having sex with Jamie Lloyd to make a baby, to sacrifice it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we have made our point to exhaustion. Because I came to this episode like really prepped that I want to understand what is going on, to fully kind of go through all the layers of the film. We've made so many wonderful excuses so far for this film, but this Kara Strode stuff, there may be even like a semi-legitimate explanation for all of this crap. Just now I cannot think of it.
But yeah, this is really a baffling plot point, and I myself had even forgotten this whole rape happens in Halloween 6.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes me angry, for many reasons. First is that rape is not a subject that you should kind of handle this carelessly, where you just drop it off, kind of like, well, rape is a crime that happens to women, and that is the excuse why we are pulling the stunt here, and then adding incest.
And according to the script, Jamie is 16 years old in this film.
Oh my fucking god.
Yeah.
I hadn't even done the fucking math.
I think, does the math even in this movie add up? I think she should be, well, in Halloween 5...
she's not that old in Halloween 5.
Halloween 5, Dr. Loomis is talking about the coffin of a 9-year-old girl, but I'm not sure how old the character is supposed to be, but at its youngest 15, let's say, in this film.
Yeah, so now we are adding fucking pedophilia into the mix. A Weinstein production.
Yeah, also. Producer Scott makes it so that Sims is not killed in his own van, but somehow by magic accident, because maybe Michael Myers has changed the position of the vans. Now Sims is going to the wrong van, which says Smithsgrove Warren County Sanitarium. Goes there, then I guess he's a little confused what he has done. He's in the wrong van, and Michael Myers attacks him and gets him. Then there is this total exposition. There is this camera that moves solely for the purpose to show the audience that this is not the correct van. The camera moves to the other van to show that it's there. And it's awkward.
And it still does not explain at all why the hell Michael Myers did all the walking from his house to the fair to kill that radio DJ and then back to his house.
Don't even try to understand this movie anymore.
Also, another change that I did not personally care for in the producer's cut relating to the DJ is the Mommy It's Raining Red scene.
Yeah, because
where they
singing.
Yeah, exactly because of the singing. I felt it was way more eerier and atmospheric in the theatrical cut, where the little girl is simply kind of stating that it's raining. And here at the producer's cut, she's singing that it's raining red. And for me, kind of a steal something. Like, that was my favorite scene in the theatrical cut.
Oh. Okay.
Simply because I felt that there was this quite tense, bit surreal gothic atmosphere from the moment there is that panning shot of Danny walking at the fair and then hearing the girl and walking towards her and finally seeing the radio DJ hanged into the tree. And it's kind of a combination of all these elements that made the scene work so well for me. And now here they changed the little girl's audio. Not much, but a bit, and it steals something of the atmosphere for me.
The scene where Beth is getting stabbed is void of the theatrical cuts, MTV flash, slow motion stuff, and it's just normally showed that she is getting stabbed without all those added effects.
Yeah, it's
much better.
It's almost like somebody was filming a suspense movie.
Yeah, that is okay.
It's Beth's death scene is way better in the producer's cut without that MTV flash cut nonsense added to it.
There is different dialogue when Kara comes to pick up Danny from the Strode house, from the Strode Myers house. In producer's cut, the line is, "Danny, come to mommy." This doesn't make as much sense as in the theatrical cut, where the line is something along the lines of, "Danny, stay right there, mommy is coming to get you." So Danny would be in danger if he would start stepping on Michael Myers right there. It's better that mommy comes to get him.
But then again, it shows brain powers from the Kara's side that she automatically recognizes the place of danger, which is Michael Myers laying on the floor, and is making the logical deduction there and letting her son kind of take the risk.
Yeah, and then we follow with the chase scene to the Blankenship residence. In producer's cut, Michael is left very far from the door, as in I feel there is much less suspense here than in the theatrical cut, where Michael actually gets to the doorstep, even too close. But they are saved by the magic of editing, so Kara and Danny are fine.
God bless the editing.
Yeah.
It has pretty much saved all the characters at some point in this franchise.
Garrett jumps out of the window.
And we still don't see the moment when the car trucks Loomis and Danny.
We don't, but hey, at least in producer's cut there is this scene in between those shots where Kara is now in the cult basement underworld, surrounded by candles, tied up. And then it continues to the "we have been drugged" nonsense. Yeah, that's better. There's more dialogue when Dr. Loomis comes to the office of Dr. Wynn. He's talking more nonsense about the Thorn cult.
At least in here at producer's cut, the cult finally gets some kind of explanation of its goals and modus operandi.
Yeah.
So in that sense, the cult is handled a bit better in the producer's cut if you do not count in incest and underage rape.
Also, one scene which makes much more sense is when Tommy Doyle is told by Dr. Loomis to wait in the corridor for him when he would come out from Dr. Wynn's office. Well, he doesn't at that point. But the reason why Tommy leaves is he's following this one cult member walking around the corridors. In the theatrical cut, he just leaves Loomis there. And we get to this ceremony where Danny is watching over when her mother is tied up and Dr. Wynn is telling, please, Danny, kill for him. So this is, I suppose, supposed to be like the transfer of power from Michael Myers to Danny.
Or something. The ritual never makes any sense.
No, not quite. No. And then Kara interrupts the ceremony by saying that isn't the baby yours, Michael, and that you can stop it.
Yeah. Kara recognizes that Michael is the baby's father by the perfect blue of his eyes, which she can't see behind the mask.
Mother's instinct.
Or simply the script once again being read. Maybe it's the constellation, like the Thor symbol is actually the script. That would explain so much in this goddamn movie.
Yeah. If anything, I like some of the shots of the white hallways. Dr. Loomis and Tommy Doyle walking on the corridors and the camera doing occasionally these depth of field effects and just the contrast between the colors of the actors against the white background. I like it.
I like the scene where Danny, when they are escaping the asylum and they come to the locked gate where Danny pushes random buttons on a number code keypad and is cursing that it's not working.
Really? Oh, I have to watch that. Oh yeah, it's not working.
It's not working. Well, of course not, you fucking idiot.
Holy crap. Well, Tommy Doyle's defense, he must have forgotten that he doesn't have the key card in the script. It's Dr. Loomis. So, in the movie, his key card is the pistol.
Yeah, that is known to open up all those fancy-ass number code keypads.
Then Tommy proceeds to do the somehow
weird shit on the floor.
Weird shit on the floor. That's a good way to describe it. So rocks are also part of the Thorn cult. And the rocks are magical in power and they stop Michael Myers on his tracks, lets Tommy and the gang go, and apparently just saying the magic word Samhain to Michael is enough to totally put him on a power off.
Yeah, like this is the guy who has been shot God knows many how times. He has been burned. He has been tried to be exploded with dynamite. And, you know, the one weakness he has, the thing that stops him is some rocks on the floor.
And Dr. Wynn's following words kind of describe this madness in the perfect way. He says to Michael, "Michael, what have they done to you?"
Yeah, but what do you think? How did the exchange go before Tommy and Loomis started their trip to the asylum, like after they have noticed that they have been drugged, and before they finally make their leave for the asylum and the final confrontation, do you think that Loomis said something like, "We must head to the evil cult lair. Everybody grab whatever weapons you have. I bring my gun." And then Tommy's, "And I bring my sack of mysterious Michael Myers stopping runes. Who knows, maybe come in handy."
Yeah, well, now that you mentioned it, the ending in the script is quite different once again. I don't know if we have time for a little story time here. So,
go ahead.
Alright. Quote begins. The shape drops Tommy on the floor, then turns toward Kara and the children. Kara and Danny rattle the cage door. The shape closes in. Kara says, "Michael, fight the voice! It doesn't have power over you anymore!" The shape stops, head tilted, listening to her, looking down at the baby in her arms. Then a shadowy figure in a black hat and duster rises out of the smoke-filled darkness. The stranger, Dr. Wynn! Exclamation mark. Wynn says, "Kill them, Michael! Kill them now!" The shape looks at Wynn, then back at Kara, moving on her. Loomis says, "Michael, no!" Wynn gasps as Loomis appears on the opposite side of the cage. He throws open the door. Danny flies past him. Kara pulls Tommy over the threshold just as he comes to. Loomis slams the door on the shape, trapping it inside. Loomis says, "Go, Tommy! Get them out of here!" Tommy says, "He'll kill you!" Loomis says, "Watch over them! Take them someplace safe, where he'll never find them." Loomis and Tommy share a long exchange, then Tommy slowly backs away. The shape seems to watch Kara as Tommy leads her with the baby and Danny through the exit. Loomis steps inside the cage with the shape. Wynn watches from the opposite side. The shape now stands between Loomis and Wynn. Loomis says, "Let it be over, Michael. This time let it finally end. Take me. Let me be your final sacrifice." Wynn says, "For you, Sam, it's only the beginning." The shape descends on Loomis. His scream echoes through the hollow halls as we cut to exterior of sanitarium, nighttime. Tommy races with Kara and Danny toward the white sanitarium van. He stops, looking back at the cold, dark sanitarium. Then he has the baby in his arms. Tommy says, "I promised I wouldn't let anything happen to you, Kyle." Tommy hands Kara the baby, climbs into the van and starts the engine. Kara opens the passenger door and helps Danny inside. Interior van. Kara looks at Tommy, her face a mask of sadness and fear. Kara says, "Where will we go?" Tommy says, "As far away from Haddonfield as we can." And then exterior sanitarium. We see Danny's glazed, staring eyes as the van rambles off down the long road toward the gates of the sanitarium. Slow dissolve to interior security cage night. Through wisps of clearing smoke we find Loomis lying motionlessly on the floor. Beside him lies the shape. The cage door stands open. Wynn is gone! Slowly Loomis awakens, his expression fills with shock and fear as he takes in the lifeless form of the shape. Loomis says, "It's over, Michael. It's finally over." Loomis reaches towards the shape ever so slowly. The shape lunges, grabbing Loomis's hand. Loomis uses his free hand to pull off the mask, revealing Wynn. Loomis's eyes fill with dread and unspeakable horror. Wynn grips Loomis's hand tightly, smiling as he looks deep into his eyes. Wynn says, "He's gone! The evil is gone!" Wynn releases his grip. Loomis staggers, looking down in shock at his own hand, haunted by great gales of maniacal laughter as he stumbles off down the hall. Interior Wynn's office. Loomis stumbles through, rushes over to the wet bar, throwing glasses and bottles aside. His breath shallow, face bedded with sweat, eyes terrified. He runs the water in the sink, splashing his face, furiously scrubbing his hand as if trying to wash something burning, something terribly painful from his skin. Finally, Loomis turns off the water and looks up at his deplorable reflection in the mirror, raising up his left hand, his wrist branded with the mark of thorn. Wynn's dissonant laughter trails away into Loomis's scream of utter rage and despair. Dissolved to interior van night. Tommy drives, not seeing anything, Kara beside him, staring numbly, Danny asleep on her lap, the baby in her arms. Tommy's POV. A sign up ahead, glowing salvation. Harding County Transit, exterior bus depot. The van pulls into the deserted, rain-swept parking lot, cut to interior bus depot night. Ragged and bone-weary, Karri and Tommy shamble inside with the children. Empty benches, blank signboard, the low hum of vending machines, completely devoid of life. Tommy moves toward the ticket counter, a sign left by the attendant, back in 20. Kara carries the baby Danny following as she disappears through the door, marked ladies' room. Tommy goes to the old-fashioned phone booth, picks up the receiver and immediately dials 911. Voice says, filtered over phone, "You have reached the Haddonfield Emergency Services. Due to severe weather conditions, all circuits are momentarily busy. If this is not an emergency, please dial directly." Tommy slams the receiver down. Suddenly he becomes aware of a radio program piped in over ancient loudspeakers. Barry Sims voiceover. "So they're trying to kill you and your baby, don't tell me. Your name also happens to be Rosemary." Jamie's voiceover. "No, please listen, they're coming from me and my baby." Barry Sims, "Come on, sweetheart, what is this? Who's coming?" "It's Michael Myers." Suddenly, Tommy reacts to the sound of a bone-chilling scream. Jamie's words seem to replay themselves in a continuous loop as Tommy rushes forward dreamlike, pushing right through the ladies' room door. Interior ladies' room. Empty, dark, silent. Tommy moves along the row of stalls, opening each one, no one inside. Jamie's voice haunts him, still echoing in the background. He reaches the final stall, pushes to open the door. Tommy's POV. Slumped on the floor, her throat slit, is Kara, the mark of thorn drawn with her blood on the wall. Danny stands looking down at his mother with the darkest eyes we have ever seen, the devil's eyes. His hands are covered in blood. A cold gust of wind blows through the open window. The baby is gone. Angle on Tommy, letting out a scream of unimaginable horror, drowned out by the sound of police sirens, rising in the distance as we cut to a series of shots, the sounds of the shape, heavy, muffled breathing getting louder and louder. The Halloween theme rises, unrelenting, unstoppable, as we see the darkened sanitarium, the devastated college campus, the empty, solitary street of Haddonfield, the Myers house, dark, empty, for sale by Strode Real Estate. A baby's shrill cry keens and whimpers in the night as we move in on a glowing, grinning jack-o'-lantern. The wind causes the candle to blow out, leaving us in darkness as we fade to black. Roll final credits, and then, for those who remain in their seats until the lights go up, cut to exterior Myers house. A figure wearing Wins, black duster and hat, a pair of familiar muddy work boots on his feet, steps shockingly into frame. Breathing heavily through a Halloween mask, then he seems to disappear again into the darkness, like a figment of our imagination. The end. Yay. So, it's a shit show.
Yeah, there's no good version of this fucking film.
We have tried to look for it.
Yeah, we have done basically anything except, landed ourselves in some dimly lit ancient temple where there could be some kind of a formidable treasure or something like that at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, hopeless.
Yep.
Oh, we have to cover the end of producer's cut.
Whee!
Loomis goes back to the hotel. Loomis goes back to the hospital for his unfinished business, which is here revealed to be as Dr. Loomis going to the apparent body of Mike Myers, or his laying, body. But it's revealed to be Dr. Wynn under the mask, saying to the audience that the curse has apparently now magically been moved from him to no one at this point. But when Dr. Wynn touches Dr. Loomis's hand, the curse is given to him.
Or something.
Something.
Like the symbol of the thorn coat just appears in the Loomis's arm with no explanation at all.
So, fucking hell. Way to make a simple, scary movie into a total shit show.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't actually believe myself saying this, but the ending of the theatrical cut made more goddamn sense.
If we are trying to make excuses and try to make this make sense in some kind of universe in this movie, maybe Michael Myers grabbed the arm of Dr. Woon, passed the curse on him, and then Dr. Woon, because he's dying on the floor, apparently he's transferring it to Dr. Loomis, who doesn't have many years for him either. And now he's the new Michael Myers or something like that.
Or, I took it that he's supposed to become the caretaker of Michael Myers, which also does not make that much sense, since in this version, in the producer's cut, Michael Myers is kind of presented as a puppet of the cult. So Dr. Loomis would not be as much as a caretaker for Michael, but he's controlling master.
Yeah, who knows? There's one continuity problem as well, because this whole scene is suggesting that they have swapped clothes. Except the shoes. Dr. Wynn still has the shoes of Michael, but the next shot kind of makes the case that he has the Michael Myers shoes now. So yeah.
Yeah, so it does. The shoes completely kind of switch owners.
And the final shot is of the Strode Myers residence, and we cut to the pumpkin, and we fade to black, in memory of Donald Pleasence.
Yeah. What a send-off.
Yeah, Halloween H2O, in fact, commemorates Donald Pleasence in the end credits as well. Definitely a better film to do that with, but then again they fuck up the spelling of Donald Pleasence. They just can't get it right. Well, I realized
why the fuck are we fans of the franchise?
Honestly, at least at this grown and wise age, I am a fan of Halloween 1 and Halloween 2, and that's where it ends for me.
Yeah, well, I can still stretch it out for Halloween 4.
Yeah, okay, that's being very kind and generous.
Yeah, God. I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched H20 in years, so I have fond memories of that one. No, maybe that.
Maybe those memories are not so fond when you put it in the context of all the films that have taken place and how much this H2O is mimicking the old stuff. Well, basically, it's just Halloween 1 and 2.
Maybe I can really appreciate it after, taking these films taking the franchise to a new and unexplored territories.
Yeah. Needless to say, it was time to push the reset button for the series, and the next one has nothing to do with the Thorn Cult, and we are back to the original timeline of Halloween 1 and 2. But in the meanwhile, let's still talk about the music of this film, because it's completely different in these two versions. The theatrical cut is more guitar-driven. The music is better timed, better used, better controlled in the theatrical cut. In the producer's cut, it seems like it was just laid on top of there, but they didn't think it through that well. Because, for example, I remember the lavatory scene in the bus depot, and the music just didn't work at all. It was noticeably bad and didn't fit the scene. So, yeah, if I would have to make a new cut of this film, it would be a combination of these two cuts, in some way, without the guitar Halloween theme.
Yeah, well, be my guest. This is unsalvageable.
This is unsalvageable. I have no interest of making any of my own version of this. No way. Thanks.
But to follow the free fall metaphor from our previous episode, I still have to make the case that this Halloween 6 still might not be the moment when the franchise hits the ground. We are still at the free fall. If I remember correctly, there is still even worse movie coming at our direction in this God-forsaken franchise.
After Halloween 4, the series was totally salvageable, but they did what they did, and
yeah. But still, we are still in the free fall with Halloween 6, but Halloween 6 is the point where you can see the ground at this point. You are so close to hitting the ground that you already see it. Halloween 6 is kind of the last few moments before the sudden stop.
Halloween 6 was shown to test crowds, apparently for kids around the age of 14 for some reason, even though this is an R-rated movie. And one of the kids said after the showing that he didn't like at all that how Donald Pleasence's character Sam Loomis was treated in the ending. The way the information was presented was that due to this one kid or so, the movie went back to reshoots and they completely redid the ending in a way. Still, that comment doesn't justify why they made so many of the reshoots. So I'm left scratching my head a bit with that. I suppose they wanted to reduce the whole cult thing in the final cut, but they couldn't quite get rid of all of it.
Yeah, or maybe they wanted to introduce more Michael Myers. Because that's kind of the trade-off you get with these two versions of Halloween 6. The theatrical cut has more Michael Myers in it, and the producer's cut has more Sam Loomis.
Some more artistic or technical observations from this film. The Halloween 6 is more colorful, has more colors in it than Halloween 5. Halloween 5 is really dark. I mean, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but this movie looks different in the color grading tone. Good execution of lighting and some blue light is seen in this film. Shooting, it's kind of suspect at some points. The movie is actually pretty cohesive in the producer's cut, like I said, within its own nonsense universe.
Well, it does feel more like an actual movie than the theatrical cut.
Suppose the theatrical cut was also kind of trying to make all the druid stuff be more up to interpretation, but by trying that they made the movie make no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's kind of the situation where you can't just haphazardly start to cut off and remove kind of plot elements that are meant to be major in the script and the story that has originally been done. And that haphazard style of removing parts is something that is to be seen in the theatrical cut.
Yeah, it is. And finally the movie came out. Premiere and the response. Well, the critical reception. The film has 6% approval, which is not really an approval, on the internet review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes. And on Metacritic, the film holds 10 out of 100 points based on 13 reviews, signifying as overwhelming dislike. Daniel Kimmel of Variety called the film tired, run-of-the-mill. Then there is Mick LaSalle of the San Francisco Chronicle. He said the film lacked suspense and not even the presence of the late, gloriously histrionic Donald Pleasence can liven things up, and said the movie is bland, deadening, and by far the worst in the series. Stephen Holden of the New York Times called the film script impossibly convoluted. Agreed. Shock effects are applied with such ham-fisted regularity that they quickly backfire. Yeah, there's always this metallic clang, clang, clang when they're doing the jump scares. That's me talking right now. Josh Hartle of the Seattle Times criticized the film's conventionality and said that instead of sending up the current glut of serial killer movies, the filmmakers trot out the old slasher tactics. Well, I haven't seen this cult shit before, so that's one. Jack Matthews of the Los Angeles Times similarly criticized the film's lack of originality. Well, I wouldn't say that. It's really an original shit show. He compared it negatively to its predecessors. Well, undoubtedly. Richard Harrington of the Washington Post also criticized the script and said that while director Chappelle and writer Daniel Franz took advantage of a clearance sale at the horror cliché Emporium, they forgot to stop in at Plots Are Us. The The Time Out London Film Guide said that the film is competently engineered shock moments jollied along by a jazzed up version of John Carpenter's original electronic score, slicker than crude oil and just as unattractive. Dr. Terence Woon was cast because of his performance in Lethal Weapon, 1987.
Well, yeah, heard about that one.
And originally, the fans wanted Christopher Lee for the role, which would have been a mistake because I think he's too well-known actor. I think we only need Donald Pleasence's presence. Dennis Richards was auditioned for the part of Beth. I wonder if she would have gone like nude in the scene. That's just the pervert old me, of course, asking these questions. What's your favorite quote in this movie? Any idea?
I like the Two Old Friends and New Beginnings.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, it is also my favorite scene on the producer's cut.
Yeah.
When visiting Loomis.
I, once again, like all the Dr. Loomis's very emotional quotes. Like when he's walking down the sanitarium hallway and saying to himself, when? When he's explaining Michael Myers to Mrs. Strode. The only part that I remember right now from that is, he's rage! Well, the film opened to a respectable 7.3 million on September 29, 1995, coming in second to New Line's serial killer thriller called Seven. 7 million opening, and the film went on to gather as much as 15 million, so still leaving the effort quite lackluster, I would say.
From this franchise, yeah.
Yeah, Halloween 5 was already a shit show at the box office. This looks to be slightly better, but not so much. Let me see, 5 million budget estimated, gross USA 15 million. Okay, let's go with that statistic and then compare to Halloween 5. Halloween 5 budget was estimated 3 million and gross USA was actually 11.6 million. Huh.
So basically Halloween 5 managed to pull off a bigger stake.
Well, Halloween 5 is always said to be the worst performing movie in the entire franchise. So what the statistics are not taking into account here is the international success. So maybe that's the thing. But even internationally, Halloween 6 got a really small exposure. For example, in Finland, it never got its premiere. It was released in a handful of countries.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to study the numbers and find reasons how Halloween 5 would still perform worse than Halloween 6, I would say that the counting in the inflation would be what we should be looking at and kind of matching the box office take into that.
Yeah, there's also that.
Halloween 6 made its estimated budget back 3 times forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Halloween 5 managed to get it almost 4 times.
Would you recommend Halloween 6, the producer's cut?
No.
Me neither.
Yeah. If you would have to choose, between producers and director's cut, or the theatrical cut, which one would you take to get the hard answers?
Yeah, there are problems with both, but at the end of the day, at least the producer's cut gives a more sensical ending, whereas I feel the theatrical does not even have a proper ending. It's just some botched editing and provides nothing for the viewer. So I go with the producer's cut.
Yeah, I on the other hand don't completely know. I mean, like I said, producer's cut is more of a movie, but it comes with the whole uncle, dad, Mikey thing. I don't know, maybe I would pick the theatrical cut. Even though as a movie it is lackluster, but at least it cuts off the rape.
Yeah, it's left to be assumed that Jamie Lloyd had a beautiful relationship in the underground cellars. And
Or fuck it, No, I big the producers got to. I've watched too much
Oh.
exploitation movies, to actually try to get a moral high ground here.
Okay. Well, it's safe to say that the Halloween series really went completely astray. There is no way to continue from here. Halloween series went off the balustrade completely, and we are left to kind of reboot the whole idea. Get to the roots of what Halloween was about, or slightly so. That's what we are going to face next with Halloween H2O, when Jamie Lee Curtis triumphantly returns for her role to save the series, at least for a short moment.
Yeah, until next time.
Yeah, see you then.